taps, coffee brews, we're like, here we go. I'm the broken baker, chat's coming in slow. Lawyers pace, jury sits, the room hums alive. Leaning forward, screens glowing, this is where we thrive. Stream from roll real, chat's the heartbeat, loud and clear. Trials come and go, but we stay near. Crimes up, crimes down, you're always here. Drops, lawyer jumps, tension spikes, we freeze frame, the jaw drop, chats and lower yikes. Not mocking the mess, just sharing the rush. Even silence feels like a crush. We read this dream from roll real, chats the heartbeat, loud and clear. Trials come and go, but we stay near. Crimes up, crimes down, you're always here. So grab your mug, don't be late, the baker's life will set it straight.
And we're back. Back again. Back streets back. All right. So, will we ever get to the part where they talk about her doing it? Yeah. I don't know. So far, not a lot of evidence. A lot of we went to the crime scene after and looked at stuff. But why are we pointing our finger at this girl? I don't know. The only thing that has been about her so far is she picked him up at a party and she called 911. The 911 call was a little sus because she didn't say who he was and stuff like that. But other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot of things going on in this case. Hey, Candence, how are we doing? But hopefully it'll get a little better this afternoon. Now some DNA, maybe. Well, her tossing the gun into a bush is also a little. But nothing a good defense couldn't try and sneak around, I think. No, inspiration needs to hit me before I take the whiteboard out. But sadly, there's not a lot of things going on that kind of makes me want to do it because it's just been boring. It's 10 minutes of, you were there, yeah. Did you see this? Yeah. Did you do that? Yeah. Okay, see you later. It's going fast. That's at least something, but the evidentiary value, we have a hard disk that's effed up. That's about the most important part so far. That's again, it sounded like an open and shut case that they have everything on video, and right now we still haven't seen any of the video that shows anything. The only thing we had was the body cam, but that's after it happened, and whatever she says, she could say, well, I was in shock. Yeah, but as I always say, if it's not presented in court, it's not real. You can do 10,000 videos about everything out there, but so far in this case, nothing has been presented. And that's my problem. They are about to rest tomorrow. Of course, this afternoon they can bring in all the evidence, but so far nothing has been brought in. This is why I don't do the deep dives before, because I want to see it. I want to see it presented in court, that the prosecution proves that she is guilty. I've read 2 articles before, and it sounded like, oh, we have so much evidence. But they haven't really presented any of it yet. That's the thing I have a problem with. Hey, Deirdre. because in all the cases, there's always 1,000 stories out there about, well, this and that, and I've heard this and I've seen that. It's the same with the Kelsey Fitzsimmons trial that she lost a baby. It's in none of the filings. It's a rumor. Could be true. I don't know. I didn't speak to her. But wouldn't you put it in a filing when you're asking for her to be let out of prison if she lost a baby in prison? It's one of those. There's always rumors going around. We have Karen Reed hitting John on a Ring camera. So I would just love that they had something. So far, we have had a 911 call where she sounded weird. But again, what's the correct emotional state that you have to be in? Then we have a guy saying she didn't arrive till 10 minutes after he collapsed. But if she nicked an artery 10 minutes, you're gone in 10 minutes. An artery is one of those that'll drain you really fast. So it's a little hard here to. So far, I'm not beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm just saying because we haven't heard that her. Maybe it'll be today. Her handprints are on the weapon. She did this or that, but again, going by what's been presented in court so far, other than her being mad at him for going to a drug house, not a lot of hard information is going into it. Well, I don't have a team. I'm just team. You have to get beyond a reasonable doubt. That's why I don't do the deep dives before, because then you're not objective when you watch the trials. And I don't know. Because would I also, if I knew some stuff that might not be presented in court, sit here and say, well, she's clearly not guilty. Why? Well, if it's not presented in court, it's not real. That's just me. But I don't know. It's a weird way of running a trial, because normally you would come in and give us something good. Then you'll do all the boring foundational stuff and you'll end with a home run. And other than opening statements, I don't really feel we have had anything so far. And I'm actually happy we had to switch off yesterday and go to Karen Reed, because the afternoon was boring too. It's I just hope that they at some point will bring in some kind of evidence that she did it, and maybe they'll play the closed caption videos in the end. Could be a good one to end on. But I don't know. It's a little slow moving. The audio's bad. The setup is annoying. It's one of those cases where you just get irritated, because why don't we have some good cameras so we can see what the hell the evidence are, and we can hear the judge. I can't hear half the words the judge are saying, and the judge keep asking, when are you thinking you're going to be done with this and that? And yeah. No, it's just another punt down the road. They have 10 days to figure out what to do with the phones.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the judge didn't want to make a ruling.
R-I-O-D-E. D is a boy.
Yeah, and we know we have a camera somewhere over here that we used yesterday. That could show us the evidence. Well, if the mods find you salty, they can put you out. we were supposed to start at 1:30 exactly. Why did he just leave the room? No, you didn't miss that part because that hasn't been mentioned. And that's the big problem in getting all the information, because you will sit here and say, well, there was that part where she pistol whipped. No, because it hasn't been mentioned. No, I'm just annoyed that they are using so much. This is a court of law. There's 8 people on the jury. Why the hell it's just taking way too long, and they're calling all of these. In most cases, we'll see 3 officers. Most of what we have heard today will just be put in there by the lead investigator. But in this case, it's just, yeah, I was at the scene and I saw another guy there. Did you do anything? No, I was there. It's kind of like Lally calling, what was it, 72 witnesses to talk about what, if any, snow. If they are allowed to put it in there, maybe it's been ruled out because we know she's not allowed a stand your ground case. So maybe, again, that's why we go by what's presented, not what's out there, because there's a lot of stories out there about what is in this case that we sadly haven't seen, because it could be a really interesting case. With the most interesting part is the dynamic on the defense team or the prosecution team, where the lead prosecutor is an a-hole to his co-chair. Stand up. Stand up. Defense, stand up.
All right, the jurors.
Male, female, male, female, 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 male, male. That looks about 50-50.
So the plan still is to take a quick coffee break at 3 p.m., which should be quicker than yesterday, and to be done at 5:30 today. So that's the plan. So, as far as state, you're in super.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Officer Rio. Rio.
We've seen some where you think how, and then others where we think why not. So I think it's also very dependent on the judge.
Raise your hand, please. You solemnly swear affirm that the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You?
Good afternoon, officer.
Good afternoon.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Deputy Harold Ryobi.
Okay. And what is your current position and employer?
I'm employed by the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, and my current duties, I'm a field training officer for Miami-Dade.
Now, back in 2022, what was your role, or what was your position?
I was a firearms canine handler.
Okay. And what exactly did you do as a firearm canine handler?
I would help with homicide investigations, any type of investigation that a firearm was used.
Okay. So were you in this role then around June 25th of 2022?
Yes, I was.
Now, what type of training do you have to undergo to be a canine handler then?
when we first get our dog, we go through a stringent 6-week initial training where we get the firearm canine we imprint the dog as far as to learn the odors of gunpowder and gun oil.
Okay. Now, what was the name of your canine around this time?
Trigger.
And with Trigger, how long had you been working with him then?
When this occurred, approximately 8 years.
Okay. Now, is Trigger still working today?
No, Trigger's retired.
And why did Trigger retire?
He was getting up in age. I had the opportunity to either get another dog and stay as a firearm handler, or since Trigger I didn't want to get another dog because I've been on 25 years. So I could leave at any point. I didn't want to have to train another dog and possibly have the dog go to somebody else or anything. So I just left the program.
Okay. But Trigger was working in 2022 then, right?
Yes.
All right. What type of training did Trigger have to go through in order to get this specialization in firearm detection?
Well, it's an associative training where Trigger learns gunpowder and gun oil. And once he's able to determine, where the gunpowder, gun oil is, he learns by, we praise him and he continues on to other.
Was Trigger trained for any other types of scent other than firearms?
No, we're a single odor organization.
Okay. Now, how often did Trigger need to be trained when he was working?
We pretty much trained weekly or daily, actually.
And how many handlers did Trigger have around this time?
Just one.
And it was you, right?
Just myself.
Okay. So I want to bring your attention to the weekend of June 25th and 26th of 2022. Now, were you on duty that day?
Yes, I was.
And did you respond to the scene of 1237 Northwest 14th Street in Homestead?
Yes, I did.
All right. When you went to that scene, what exactly was your role, or what did you do when you first arrived?
I was requested to respond by Detective Hubbard. Once I got there, I was advised that a homicide had occurred, and they gave me areas to run my dog.
Okay. Now, when you were there with Detective Hubbard, was this for a secondary canvass?
Yes, it was.
Now, what is the purpose of a secondary canvass?
Just she was doing her due diligence to make sure that all areas were covered.
Now, are you looking in a specific area with Trigger, or is he just free roam?
No, Trigger's on leash, and Trigger does what he does as far as like any other dog, walking around, smelling, trying to pick up any odors that he could find as far as if there's gun oil or gunpowder.
So how does Trigger essentially let you know that he found something?
Well, if he does find something, he'll go to a seated position.
Okay. And is that standard then for, canines? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Now, was there any specific area in this case that you were looking for that Detective Hubbard took you to?
It was whatever area that I was directed to run.
Now, during your search, did you end up finding anything?
No, I did not.
Did you end up searching the property of where the shooting occurred?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm now publishing what's already been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit 8. Were these the areas that you searched with Trigger?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you find any firearms?
No, I did not.
Did you find any spent casings?
I did not.
Did you find anything at all with Trigger?
No, I did not.
Did you yourself see anything with your own eyes that Trigger might not have found?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, one last question about Trigger. Does he lead you where to go, or do you lead him?
I take him to a specific area and pretty much he leads me.
Your Honor, just a moment to confirm. No further questions, Your Honor.
To those people who called me grumpy about, we just had a canine handler saying, yeah, we didn't find shit.
See if there's any cross-examination. There was no cross.
That's 7 minutes of my life I will never see again. But Trigger is a horrible name for a dog.
They call it Jason Felix.
I don't know if it's good or bad. They will say they're cops, so I don't know if it'll change anything if they're in a uniform. In our trials, if they are on the job, they'll come in uniform. If they're not, they'll just come in and say they're a police officer. Maybe the defense are trying to say something about they didn't search something or whatever. But we just had a man say for 7 minutes that he didn't find anything, and most of it was about how Trigger went on retirement and he didn't want to train a new dog.
You sound swear affirm that testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Oh, he has a binder. Finally, some evidence.
Good
Looks like a
afternoon.
frog.
Can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
My name is Jason Felix, last name spelled Felix.
And Mr. Felix, where do you work?
I work for the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you worked there?
8 years and 8 months.
And what do you do for the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office?
I work for the Forensic Technology Division, which is actually the crime lab. I work in the Forensic Identification Section, NIBIN test.
Why is he smiling so much when he's talking? Why is he so happy to be testifying? He's so happy. I got out of my office. I didn't have to look into a microscope for a couple of hours. Oh, thank heaven. Wasn't Dexter working in Florida? Just saying.
Firing unit. My work duty is to test fire, crime scene recovered, and found property firearms.
And can you walk us through what, if any, training that you have to do or experiences that you do to be in your position?
So this position is based on mostly previous work experience. I was in the Army for 4 years, including a deployment to Iraq and Kuwait in 2004. So I have extensive experience with firearms and ammunition. After that, I was a police officer with New York City Police Department for 5 years. I also worked in federal corrections in the municipal corrections city jail for 2 years. I got divorced and I moved down to Florida and continued my law enforcement journey here with a stint with state corrections for a year while I was waiting to be hired by the former Miami-Dade Police Department. And I have been with this agency for 8 years and 8 months. I decided that I wanted to forego work in sworn law enforcement and become a civilian working in a crime lab due to previous experience. So I completed my education. I got a bachelor's degree from Purdue University and I applied for this position.
So it'd be fair to say that you're fairly well versed with firearms?
Yes, that would be accurate.
Okay. Now, were you asked to test anything in this case?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and when we say this case, is that PD 2206252105513?
Yes, that is the case number.
And is that the case that we're here for today?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What, if anything, did you have or assigned to test in this case?
Yes, so my supervisor assigned me a firearm under the case number that he mentioned. And the way that goes for my position, I'll show the jury. I'm given a property receipt. So this is a copy of the property receipt under the case number. And again, I'm assigned firearms evidence. We have a secure vault in our section that stores all of the containers of the firearms. Each container has a unique barcode identifying that that is the correct package. It is affixed with the case number. So I will go to the vault and retrieve that container number, match up the Miami-Dade Police case number with the container number, and take that container back to my desk and begin my process.
Can you explain to the members of the jury what a semi-automatic firearm is?
Yes. Do you want me to explain the cycle of fire?
However you want to do it.
Sure. Okay, so a semi-automatic firearm, commonly known as a gun, is a device that is made up of a barrel and an action from which a projectile is fired by means of a small explosion. And I will walk you through the process of firing a gun. So a semi-automatic handgun is going to be loaded with a magazine, which is commonly referred to in civilian vernacular as a clip. It's incorrect, it's actually a magazine. It is a tubular cylinder or box shape, and it is top loaded with ammunition cartridges until it is filled to maximum capacity. That magazine is inserted into a slot that you grip on the handgun. That's going to be the magazine well. At that point, the firearm.
In this case, something else was inserted into a slot. Pickety boom. I'll be here all week.
The semi-automatic firearm is loaded. So the individual in possession of that firearm will rack the slide back of the firearm and release it. When they release the slide, it will simultaneously strip a cartridge from that magazine and seat it into the chamber. The chamber of that firearm is now locked. This is now a locked and loaded live firearm. With a pull of the trigger, one pull of the trigger, it is going to release a firing pin or a hammer, which will strike forward, and it is going to strike the end of the cartridge, which has a detonating charge, which is known as a primer. The primer is going to cause a small explosion and ignite the gunpowder. The gunpowder in that casing is going to propel highly pressurized.
Why are you about to laugh when you talk about an explosion? This is the weirdest guy we have ever seen in any trial. He's about to laugh. Probably not.
Gases and shoot the projectile towards from the chamber down the barrel towards its intended target.
K-Dubs, I'm not, but maybe always have a life alert on you if you go on dates with guys like this. I'm not saying that you are gonna end up in a landfill, but there's a high likelihood you're gonna end up in a landfill.
The time that projectile is being shot, the casing is going to be ejected from that semi-automatic firearm through the ejection port and land in and around the person who fired that firearm. Now, this firearm is a semi-automatic firearm because with each successive pull of the trigger, the firing cycle process will repeat itself until the magazine is empty.
Well, I like my job too, but I don't
Your Honor, permission to retrieve evidence and publish evidence? Thank you. Mr. Pierce, I'm just going to end you with my previously introduced as Case 15.
Yes.
I have some gloves if you want to take that out.
I don't think he's nervous. I think
Do you
he's
see a
enjoying
case
this
number?
day out of the office.
Yes.
Is that the same case number that we're talking about?
Yes, this is the correct case number as well as the correct container number. So this is the barcode that I previously mentioned that has the police case number and the unique container number that matches the property receipt and the contents of the package.
So I'm going to ask
Chain
you
of
to
custody,
identify
at least, is
all
okay
of the
here.
other contents Now, you mentioned a couple of terms, semi-automatic firearm, magazine.
He was divorced.
cartridge, et cetera.
He's
Can you-
dumb enough
can
to
you-
get married
can you
again.
pull it out? Can you explain to the jury what each one is?
Some of the contents are fastened to the original container for safety purposes. So this is going to be the semi-automatic firearm. This is the magazine, which contains the cartridges that are loaded into the magazine, and the magazine is inserted into the magazine well. This is the slide. You will rack this rearward and release it. The cartridge is stripped. From the top of the magazine, it's going to be seated into the chamber. This is a chamber. Pull the trigger. The projectile, commonly referred to as a bullet, is shot towards its intended target. What is left is the casing that is ejected from the ejection port. And again, this will land in and around the person who is shooting this
It's a
firearm.
good explanation.
Do you mind actually opening up where the casings are and showing that to the members of the jury? Scissors, right?
Scissors,
Yeah.
It's a good explanation for once. Normally experts are
It's
not good
easier
at
to,
explaining
have a
things.
projector behind.
a little more. So these are the casings that okay, I gotta explain this.
Well, before we do that, can you just show them what we're talking about when we're talking about casings?
Okay, these are casings. This is the head stamp of a casing. The head stamp of the casing is going to contain the caliber of the bullet and the manufacturer. So in this instance, this casing was manufactured by Federal Cartridge. That's what the FC on the head stamp stands for, and it also bears 9mm markings. This is a 9mm caliber firearm. So the firing pin of the hammer is going to strike in the middle. I know it's hard, you can't see it. It's going to leave a unique shape. The detonating charge is going to be somewhere underneath the lip of this casing, and the gases are going to shoot through a small hole. This briefly expands, and the projectile, which is the bullet.
Yeah, I think it's skulls. Maybe it's he's a Halloween person, like Jamie, and starts Halloween in August. It does look like skulls. Interesting.
Is what is shot through the barrel. The casing is ejected from here. Shoots out.
Now, you mentioned that when a firearm, somebody pulls a trigger, that casing will end up around or near where that person shot. Is that correct?
Yes,
So if, for example, I'm standing here, I shoot right here, a casing will fall somewhere around my person?
somewhere in the vicinity, depending on the power, how powerful the firearm is, and even it can also be determined of how the person is holding the firearm when they're shooting it.
Okay. Now, I know you were about to explain about those casings that you collected. Can you walk us through what you did in this case?
Sure. So again, I was assigned this firearm. I retrieved the container from our secure vault. I bring this property back to my desk. We have an online evidence tracking system. So through each step of the process, I tell my evidence tracking system what step I'm currently at. And then I begin the practical work on this case, which I will have to refer to my property receipt to tell me, because this case was over 3 years old and I work with a high volume of firearms. So,
If it's easier to, I can take that back.
okay, yeah, that would be,
If you don't mind just putting it back.
sure. Okay, so this casework, we work off of, again, a property receipt.
What happened to the
There's
audio?
actually the laboratory analysis report. As you can see, it's sort of a checklist. And the police officer or lead investigator is going to check off what type of work, what type of processing that they're requesting to be done with this firearm. So this laboratory analysis report, the lead investigator is requesting biology and latents. Since they request biology, that means that I have to swab this gun for any possible DNA that may be uncovered later on. So that is the first thing that is done with the firearm. I open up the contents with protective equipment, which is going to be latex gloves, a lab coat, and a surgical mask. So I don't transfer my DNA accidentally to the evidence. I open up the box, and now I make sure the contents inside the box, inside the container, match up with what the investigator translated to the property receipt. Everything matches up, caliber, make, model, which I'm gonna have to explain because, do you want me to explain that? Okay. So this can be confusing because the information that I uncovered when I opened up the container revealed that this is a 9mm caliber, unknown make and model firearm with no serial number. However, a firearms manufacturing company that is known for just making firearm parts has an engraving on the handle, on the grip of the firearm. That company is known as Polymer-80 Inc. So I have to explain to them what privately made firearms are, which are widely known as ghost guns. This company, Polymer-80 Inc., circumvents the federal requirements of having firearms registered and serialized because you can go to their website and just order a gun kit. A gun kit would be a frame that is mailed to you in a jig, a cutout, and it has simple instructions. And that is what is known as an 80% firearm because it's nearly constructed. The only thing you would need to do at that point is acquire a slide and a barrel from another firearm company. And in a simple internet search, anyone can put that gun together. That is what's known as privately made firearms or ghost guns. And they are nicknamed ghost guns because they're not traceable. They don't have a serial number. The firearm in this container, to my surprise, was a ghost gun, has no serial number. The lead investigator had recorded that the model number is a PF 940C. That is correct for the firearm company that makes frames, but it is not a factual for recording purposes. I cannot actually say that that is the make and model of this firearm. So for documentation, we record it as a 9mm unknown make and model with no serial number.
What?
Did you test fire this gun?
Yes, I did.
Can you walk us through what the process is? I know you mentioned getting masked up, gloved up, but can you walk us through the actual process of test firing the firearm?
So the investigator requested for biology and latents. The first step before I test fire this firearm, again, is once I have established that the actual contents in the package match up with the property receipt, and I made my necessary corrections, this being an unknown make and model, I recorded the information on the property receipt and our online tracking system. I have my protective equipment on, gloves, surgical mask, and a lab coat. And I'm gonna set aside 3 swabs, and I will swab with a Q-tip and treated water, the front sight of the firearm, which is the barrel, and the actual hand grip and the trigger of the firearm. And then we're also gonna swab the magazine. The reason why we swab the top of the magazine, which is known as the magazine lips, is because the proper way to load ammunition into a magazine is to hold it with one hand and press down on top of the magazine, usually with your thumb. That's going to present DNA in and around the lip of the magazine, so we swab the top of the magazine. So Those 3 swabs are then packaged into a brown paper bag, sealed with all of the pedigree information being the case number, container number, make, model, caliber, firearm. It's also going to have my name and my badge number. And that package is then sealed and set aside to be sent to our central evidence reception center to be forwarded to the biology section for processing. The next step in the process, since this investigator requested for latents for the actual cartridge, which is the bullet that was submitted with this case, I will take it to, we have a super glue fumigating chamber, which is a square shaped glass contraption. And I will remove the requested cartridge and from the package, place it in the center of the container. And we will super glue fumigate it. And the actual ingredient is cyanoacrylate ester, which anyone can buy. If you have crazy glue in your house, that is what it is. That is what super glue is. So we apply a dime to quarter-sized amount onto a small aluminum tray, place that onto a heating pad, and we close the super glue container, and it fumigates for about a half-hour cycle. Once that's completed, I will remove the evidence, which was the cartridge, and place that back into its original packaging, seal it, and date it with my initials and badge number. Now, finally, we begin the test firing process, which is the operability. Again, with gloves, protective equipment, I will perform a function test on this firearm. Now, a basic function test consists of removing a firearm from the package, racking the slide back, and making sure that the chamber closes, locks, and battery. I will also be checking for any loose parts, any damaged parts, like a physical safety, any slide locks, making sure that they all are in serviceable and safe operating condition. Once I've determined that this firearm is safe to operate, I will then point it downrange in our indoor range in a safe manner, and I will dry fire. Dry fire just means pulling the trigger with no ammunition. So what I'm checking for when I pull the trigger is an audible click as well as a physical click, which lets me know that this firearm can shoot ammunition. The audible click tells me it has a working firing pin. At that point, I will use an engraving tool, and I will take 2 9mm test fires from our ammunition storage closet, and I am going to take that engraving tool and engrave on my test fire casings PD 22, which stands for Police Department, 22 being the year of this case, the last 6 numbers of this case number, which is 210513, and then my initials JF and T1, which stands for test fire 1. And the same information will go on the second test fire casing, but that will have T2 for test fire 2. I will take those test fires that I prepared and load them into the magazine and successfully test fire that firearm. The casings, again, land in and around my person. I retrieve those casings from the floor of our firing range, and I know that those are the test fire casings that I just produced because they have my initials on the casings. At that point, test firing is complete. This firearm was successfully test fired, and then it's on to a brief microscopic examination where I compare both of my test fires, and I choose the one that I feel like has a more obvious ejection mark, which is a tool mark that occurs on each casing when it is ejected during firing. Once I have determined one casing is better for comparison versus the other, that casing is then oriented and entered into our NIBIN software. NIBIN is an act.
We don't need to talk about that.
I don't need to talk about NIBIN? Okay, so then the test fire and operability is complete. And that's all work that I have done with this case.
Were you able to confirm that this firearm itself was operable?
Yes.
Was there any evidence of any kind of malfunction or misfire or anything like that?
No, if there is an issue that occurs in the realm of troubleshooting, I actually
Didn't know.
record that information on the property receipt and in this small box, additional notes on the laboratory analysis form. I didn't have
In
to
40
record
minutes.
anything because there were no issues. There were no troubleshooting issues during my operability testing.
Now, I know that you said that the casings you shot were around your area, correct?
Yes,
And those were collected?
yes.
Great, I have no further questions, Your Honor.
In cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
You can step down.
All of this to say the weapon worked. Oh, they're going to side by side. All of this to say the weapon worked and he did 2 test fires. What's happening? What? What? What's happening? Well, there's another one who do the fingerprints and DNA analysis.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, baby daddy didn't buy a dry fire.
I didn't just roll right over there.
I don't know, actually.
Huh?
Kind of, Brett.
Please. Thank you.
Did we go home? Is court over for today? What's happening? I don't know. What's going on? I've never seen this in a court before, that all the lawyers just walks out. that both sets of lawyers just left the courtroom. Sue, because you're the career criminal on this chat. You should know all of this stuff. And maybe it's a witness they have to talk to because they talk something about they're going to present something to the defense. But again, we've been going for 40 minutes. And she didn't send the jury out. I don't know. Well, then why are we here? This is my time to ask you, what's happening? Who's that guy? Wasn't he with that girl before? Why are they going there? Who's that guy? Like Jamie watching a movie. She kind of looks like Taylor's a Business. Taylor's a Business pled guilty yesterday. No, pled no contest yesterday. Are we sending the jury out? No, her first trial was actually not that interesting. Only part when she beat up her lawyer. Oh, was there something we had to look up at that? What's his name? We covered the last week. Kelsey or something. Candelara. What the hell was his name? Your videos. His name is. His name is. His name is. His name. Oh, I'm coming back. Soto Escarada. Well, we can watch this because nothing else is going on right now. So let's see. This is Soto Escarada. We watched last week the guy who unalived his girlfriend. 2 days ago, he was back in prison, back in court.
Has had time to confer with Mr. Soto Escalera. Any further evidence from the defense?
Well, Judge, I did have some commentary to make and some argument to make, however.
Right. But outside of argument,
No more. Well, Mr. Soto Escalera wants to speak, Judge. I do believe.
okay.
My client would like to address.
Okay, he may make a statement either under oath or not under oath at his choosing, allocution or otherwise.
He's allocating.
Okay, you may make a statement, Mr. Soto Escalera, at this time. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. What I'm bringing to the courts to address is, I have a conflict of interest. Mr. Thomas Burns. So I was asking for your permission, if possible, if I can get him removed from my case because I don't trust him.
Mr. Soto Escalera, trying to think of how to say this in a way that's most understandable. I think there's an expression, we're at the 11th hour. This is probably even beyond that. We're probably at 11:59 here. We're about to close all of the evidence in your case, which would be submitted to me with the jury's recommendation, whether you should receive the death penalty or life in prison. Counsel has already done his job. They've already completed their work on the case. Really, at this point, all that's left for them to do is argue to me. So I don't believe there's really any purpose in that.
He said that he had a conflict of interest with his lawyer, so he wanted a new one because he didn't trust him.
At this time, even if I were to grant your request, there's nothing left for counsel to do at this time other than to make argument to me, which quite frankly could be persuasive, but given the judge's function, where we are, as I mentioned, 11:59 metaphorically, there's really not much purpose in that. So from counsel, since it does affect counsel, does counsel agree with my observation on that particular point? I'm going to inquire Mr. Soto Escalera whether he wants to speak about the decision I have to make and give me input in that regard, because he has the right to do that. But that's separate and apart from what's being said now. Does counsel for the defense agree with my observation as far as, if this is a request to discharge counsel, where
Absolutely, Judge, and
The
that,
horse is out of the barn at 11:59 PM, I suppose would be the metaphorical.
correct, and as I explained to my client, I am not qualified to be on the case by myself, because I'm only second share qualified. So Mr. Burns has to remain on the case to the duration.
Right, and just for the record, I haven't heard the arguments yet, but there's been a substantial amount of mitigation put before me, both at the trial and additionally here today, that I have to consider and digest. And does not seem to me that there's any reason for me to discharge counsel at this time. More importantly, before you brought that up, Mr. Soto Escalera, you do have the right to make a statement at this time, either under oath or otherwise, that I would consider in making my determination in this sentencing proceeding. You understand you have that right to do that. And I was assuming that you were going to do that. I'm not saying whether you should or not. That's between you and your counsel. But I want to make sure that by me dismissing your conflict of interest issue, you don't take that as me dismissing your ability to make such a statement. Do you wish to make such a statement, or do you wish to talk to your counsel about whether you wish to do that at this time?
The only reason why I brought it up, Your Honor, is because something has surfaced with a witness and it was recorded in audio. This is why I'm requesting that I would have him removed. But if I can't remove him, I would like you to see what I'm speaking about so you can understand what I'm trying to say, if you have the time, Your Honor.
With regard to that, that would be a decision in this very important context for your attorneys to make, whether to submit that issue to me as far as potential mitigation. And I would, as I'm required to do, I would defer to their professional decision in that regard.
Enough, Judge. I'm going to lay it all out on the record, okay? I think Mr. Soto Escalera is hurting his situation. He's proceeding in ignorance on the advice of ignorant people. What he is referring to is a Zoom recorded deposition, the first such deposition I ever did in my life, with witness Lucinda Cook. This was done, I think, on the Tuesday when there was a court holiday, when we were in the midst of trial or jury selection. I'm not sure exactly where we were yet. And before Ms. Cook joined, there was a recording with chit-chat between me and Mr. Richardson about witnesses in the case, about the state of the case, about why I was calling witnesses and not calling witnesses, and complaining about somebody who had Ms. Minton's credit card and was going over the limits, and chit-chatting as counsel do between themselves, waiting for a witness. And I don't think people understand the context of how attorneys talk to each other. I think that the witnesses who overheard this, Ms. Lucinda Cook and whoever else she communicated with, think that because this is a capital murder case, me and Mr. Richardson should be like this with our hands around each other's throats every moment. And we were not that way. We were chatting as counsel do in a case. And in a capital case especially, do counsel and adversaries have to communicate frequently and exhaustively to get the thing from start to finish done. That's all that it was. There is nothing in there that was inimical to Mr. Jose Soto Escalera's defense, and I defy him or anyone else to point to any action or anything that I did or said at any point in the preparation of this case, or in the trial, or in the penalty phase that was contrary to his interest. It's nonsense and bullcrap, and that's what he's on about, Judge. So he can feel however he wants. He's an idiot. On this issue, at least.
In that regard, for Mr. Soto Escalera's benefit, the people who are here observing this proceeding, regardless of the court's sentencing decision, whether I impose a life sentence or a death sentence, there are appeals that take place directly and then indirect appeals which relate to assistance of counsel, whether the defendant received proper assistance of counsel. That's for a different day. I could see this coming up perhaps in that scenario on the merits to be figured out at that time as appropriate, which goes back to what I said before. The evidence is in, mitigation has been placed before me. So we're at that stage where I'm to consider that. Put differently, if Mr. Soto Escalera feels that Mr. Burns did not properly litigate his case for whatever reason, there will be a proceeding in that regard. But to be fair to Mr. Burns, as respected counsel before the court, usually what has to be shown, or what would have to be shown, is something of substance, not just some idle remark we see from criminal defendants all the time, like, my attorney is working for the state, because look, they're smiling at each other, and they're acting as professionals and not constantly cursing and berating each other and putting each other down. That's not the expectation of the court. In fact, we foster the opposite as professionals, that they get along, because once this case is over, they'll be on to a next case, and so will I. And so as professionals, they have to work with each other. But more importantly, as I mentioned at the outset, that is for another day. I'm directly focused on the extremely consequential and important decision I have to make, which goes back to whether Mr. Soto Escalera wants to make a statement regarding himself, the case, for me to consider. He does not have to, and it's not going to affect him negatively if he doesn't, but he has that right to do that. So there again, we broached a different subject. I don't want him to think that I'm not going to listen to that, should he wish to listen to make that statement. On the other hand, I'm not sure he has an intent to do that anyway. He just wanted to broach this subject.
Right, Judge, I think he
Okay.
said his piece and he has nothing
Okay.
to say at this
All
time.
right, so it's not the first time I've had to tell the defendant or someone else, that's for another day. There is a right to have a motion for post-conviction relief with regard to your Sixth Amendment right to counsel. That's for another day, really, regardless of my decision here. So other than that,
So someone heard them chit chat and be friendly, and he thought, "Oh, he's working for the state against me." No, he's not. He's just working in a courthouse where he sees these guys all the time. They will fight for their clients, but they are colleagues and professionals. They can separate right from wrong. And while I don't know if they're back yet, but just another little thing. Connecticut mom Kristen Hogan is posting bond after being accused of attempting red rum for allegedly poisoning her estranged husband's wine in August. Bill was set at $1 million. She was granted a waiver to live with family in Massachusetts. Kelsey Fitzsimmons lived in the wrong state. If she had just been in Connecticut, she would have been sent home to Massachusetts. This is a lady who attempted to unalive someone who can get out of prison. Kelsey Fitzsimmons, who has nothing close to this against her, has to stay in prison. Massachusetts is sadly a joke.
All members are present, the order is slipped. We can continue with the seated. And the next witness.
You didn't listen to what was said. It wasn't in front of his client. It was before he was supposed to do a video deposition of a witness. His client wasn't present.
The state calls President Alvarez.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you please introduce yourselves to the members of the jury?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My name is Cosette, C-O-S-E-T-T-E, Alvarez, and I am a forensic biologist with the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office Crime Laboratory.
And how long have you been employed there?
It will be 25 years in 2 weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you tell us what your duties are at the crime lab?
Yes, sure. So my duties consist of performing DNA analysis on various types of samples for different
Slow and
criminal cases, and as well as performing a peer review of those cases, which basically means making sure that the data obtained is accurate and the results are reproducible and accurate and without errors.
Can you just tell the members of the jury briefly about your educational background?
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Florida International University, as well as a certification in forensic science from FIU as well.
And in addition to your education, do you get any specialized education or training in the field of forensic DNA analysis?
Yes, so essentially before I'm able to work case samples, I have to undergo a series of qualifying exams to be able to demonstrate that I can perform the tests that are needed to be done routinely and that I can obtain reliable results.
And how do you maintain your education in this field after it's completed?
Right, so to continue performing my duties, I am required to undergo what's known as continuing education yearly, at least 8 hours of continuing education. And that is attending conferences or
Did it finally happen? Is it Miss Brandon we have in chat today? Oh my God, this is going to take a turn.
participating in training within the laboratory.
Now, the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office Crime Lab, is that an accredited lab?
Yes, it is an accredited lab.
Who accredits it?
So the agency is known as ANAB, which, forgive me because it's an acronym within an acronym. I don't know why they did that, but it basically stands for American National Standards Institute National Accreditation Board.
Okay, and do you know how long the lab has been accredited for?
Yes, so the lab has been accredited since 1989 by an organization that was called ASCLD Lab, American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors, and then they merged with ANAB back in 2019. So since 1989, basically since the lab has conducted DNA testing, we've been accredited.
And what does it actually mean to be accredited?
So accreditation basically means that the laboratory meets and exceeds basically protocols that are in place for reliable and accurate scientific testing.
Now, is it part of the lab's requirements that each analyst take a proficiency test semi-annually?
Yes, in order to be able to still continue doing casework, performing casework, there has to be a proficiency test done every 6 months, basically.
And where do those tests come from?
There are different agencies that are that can administer it, and the agency that administers ours is called Collaborative Testing Services, and they're accredited and they're known. It's an agency that's known for providing this service to many labs within the U.S.
And when you're doing these tests, do you know the results before you take them?
No.
Have you ever failed a proficiency test?
No, I have not.
Now, when it comes to biology and genetics, are you also including certain statistics in that?
Yes, so part of the training deals with being able to perform statistical calculations after results are obtained, after data is obtained.
And do you get specialized training for that as well?
Yes, it has its own training that includes lectures that were part of my degree in biology, and also training within the laboratory that pertains specifically to performing calculations for different casework samples.
And roughly how many times have you conducted a serological or DNA analysis?
So I have done thousands of tests. So serology, by the way, it's different from DNA testing. That's just preliminary testing for the presence of biological fluids such as blood, semen, saliva, etc. Not every case has that. In fact, this particular case did not have serological testing done. But yes, that's different from DNA testing, and serology is considered a preliminary testing.
Okay. Now let's talk about DNA for a moment and DNA analysis. Can you actually explain what DNA is?
Yes, it's basically the genetic blueprint of all living things. It's within our cells, and in this case, forensically, it's what allows us to differentiate between individuals and allows me to make comparisons between data that's obtained in, say, evidence samples and compared to data obtained from like blood or saliva swab from an individual, and try to determine a common origin if there's one.
Okay. And where is DNA actually found in the body?
So it's found all throughout your body, in your skin cells, saliva, blood, biological fluids, hair, Like I said, skin cells, when you touch things, you deposit DNA cells from the skin. And those are some of the examples.
Okay. And I know you mentioned blood, saliva, skin. Are the DNA that is in my blood, for example, the same that is in my hair?
Yes.
Now, each person's DNA, is that unique?
Yes, with the exception of course, identical twins who have the same set of DNA markers.
Now, can one person's DNA change into another? For example, can my DNA become your DNA?
No.
Okay. Even if I mix two DNA samples together?
So if you mix two samples together, you'll get a mixture of DNA profiles, but it doesn't morph into one. You have a representation from both sets of genetic markers.
Okay. Now, when you're looking at somebody's DNA profile, can you tell certain things about them, like hair color, gender, skin color, or not skin color, excuse me, eye color?
So for our purposes, no. The markers that we test in the laboratory, they do not code for hair color or skin color or any of those things. It's basically just data, as if to be able to distinguish between samples. So everyone has their own unique code, and it's basically represented in terms of numbers. It's almost like everybody has their own cell phone number, and that number is unique to the person, so that if I dial a specific number, I should only get that specific person. So that's basically a representation of what we see.
Can you go through the different steps of DNA, the process for DNA analysis?
Yes, so it can be a lengthy process. I'll just do a summary. So we have what we know as the extraction step, and this step is basically to be able to separate the cells from the sample that is provided. A lot of the cases I have, samples come in the form of swabs, like cotton applicators. So it's basically separating the skin cells from the cotton fabric itself. So that would be step one, and purifying that DNA. So then comes a step of quantification, which basically means we're, through the use of instruments, we want to estimate more or less how much DNA there is in the sample. And this is important for the following step, which is known as the amplification step, in which multiple copies, using instruments, multiple copies are made of these different regions that we test through using a series of instruments. I don't know if you guys have heard of PCR, especially with the pandemic, when we were asked, oh, did you get a PCR test? Okay, so that protocol, PCR, that's the amplification step. So after multiple copies are made of the different DNA regions that we analyze, we're doing this to be able to have a visual representation on an instrument. So after making multiple copies, these areas or fragments are tagged with different colors, and it allows us to see them on an instrument. So this is the analysis portion. So after the analysis portion, there's an interpretation step. So after the analysis, I obtain data. And this data, like I said, is in the form of numbers. Everybody has their own set of numbers, like a phone number. And it is shown as peaks, and each peak is one number. So in the interpretation step, I'm basically comparing the peaks from the evidence samples to those of whatever standards I've received from an individual to see if there's a match, if they're the same, basically. And the final step would be, let's say we have determined, or I have determined that there's a match, like the DNA information.
I don't know if everyone is just monotone in Florida, but it's really hard to listen to them drone and drone and drone and drone. But I'm just going to say it, even if her DNA is on her weapon, it doesn't prove that she pulled the trigger. Can we get to the part where you proved she pulled the trigger?
Information from the evidence matches that of the standard. The next step would be to basically speak as to the significance of that match. What that means is what are the chances that somebody else in the population can have that same set of numbers or that same DNA profile. So it gives weight to the actual match.
Now, when you're doing all that work, are there steps taken to ensure and prevent contamination?
Yes, of course, every single step, at every single step, there are different ways of minimizing contamination.
Now, after you do all these steps, including the statistical analysis that you mentioned a minute ago, is your work reviewed?
Yes, it is peer reviewed.
Why?
Because it's a way to make sure that the data is accurate and reliable, as I said. And there are two different types of reviews. One is a technical review, which in this case, the reviewer will go through the data obtained and they reach their own conclusions, and then they compare it to what I obtain on my own conclusions. And then there's an administrative review, which is basically making sure that there are no typographical errors, that there are no mistakes with spelling or grammar or things like that, but that's the administrative side.
And in this case, what type of analysis did you use?
So the DNA analysis performed here is known as STR DNA analysis.
And what is that?
That stands for short tandem, TANDEM, repeats DNA analysis. Like I said before, what I'm trying to do is test different areas in the DNA molecule that have...
To prove that she handled the firearm, I think.
have these numerical representations, or this genetic information that is very different from individual to individual. So these fragments in the DNA are highly repetitive, but the length, but the number of
She looks like an
repeated
actress.
fragments differ from individual to individual. That's what allows me to make these comparisons and determinations.
I think you may have answered this question already, but how actually is a match determined?
Oh, so actually, no, that's a good question because
No, it's
a
not.
match is determined by looking at the data present in an evidence sample, like location by location, and then comparing that data to the data obtained, the DNA data obtained from a standard sample. Standard sample is like a buccal swab from an individual, or if they took blood from the individual, that it's particular to them. So whatever is obtained for that standard gets compared to the evidence data. And if all the numbers line up between the evidence and the standard sample, that's considered a match.
Okay, and if those samples match, excuse me, what is the next step?
So then we would have a statistical calculation performed, basically, like I said before, to determine the probability that somebody else would have that same DNA profile.
What calculation did you use to generate that statistic in this case?
So for a match probability statistic, we would use what's known as the product rule, and that is a statistical calculation that is made to obtain a number that represents the probability that somebody else in the population has that matching DNA profile.
Fedorowski, the Russian model in The Spy Who Shagged Me, no, the first Austin Powers, I Want to Suck a Lot, I think is her name. What's her name? She looks like her.
And when doing that calculation, do you use a database with many different types of DNAs, different races, different ethnical backgrounds? Excuse me.
Yes, so a database is used that it contains the frequency of observance of the genetic information
Well, thank you for
for
spending
all the
your
DNA
workday
types
off with
found,
us.
so that this product rule calculation can be performed by multiplying all of these different frequencies across. We have 21 different locations in the DNA molecule, and this statistical calculation allows us to multiply all the frequencies, and usually, if there's a lot of information, it ends up being a pretty big number at the very end.
Can you explain what DNA mixture is?
She's also in.
Yes, so we have what is called a single profile, which is
rock
what we
from the
normally
sun
see
or fifth
when I
rock,
obtain a DNA
whatever
swab
that
from an individual. You would
series is.
expect to only see one DNA profile, right? So a mixture of DNA profiles is any
No, that's
sample
the
that
other
you have
one.
that gives
I
you
want
more
to
than
hump a
one
lot.
DNA
I want to
profile, so
hump a
two or
lot,
more
yeah.
DNA profiles within a sample.
Okay, and is there a difference between DNA mixtures with a major and minor component and an indistinguishable mixture?
Okay, so a mixture that has
What's
a
the name?
major or minor DNA component to them, all that means is that within the sample itself, there's obviously more than one person, that's what makes it a mixture, but within that sample, there's a predominant profile or an individual that deposited more DNA than others. So you would see it as a predominant DNA profile, and then what we call minor is whatever is left other than that predominant or major profile. So an undistinguishable would be where you have multiple individuals, but you can't really, because of the way that the mixture formed itself, you can't really separate where nothing really stands out. They could be both in equal amounts, or the components of the mixture could be in equal amounts, and that's what makes it undistinguishable.
Okay. And can you briefly explain how you go about interpreting DNA mixtures?
Yes, so a mixture that has 2, 3, 4 individuals, the first step would be to try to determine how many possible contributors are in the mixture. After that, as in this case, through the use of ratios, we can approximate
Back when she was still an international model. And now she works for Miami-Dade. Sometimes the brain works.
looking at the mixture itself, we can tell if there's a predominant DNA profile that we would call a major profile. And if there is a predominant profile, then the next step would be to compare that to whatever standards are available, whatever data we have, in this case from a standard sample, compared to that evidence.
So that was a lot of background about the incident. Let me ask you, have you received any items in this case to analyze under case number PD220625210513?
Yes, sir.
What did you receive?
Your Honor, if I may refer to my notes briefly. Yes, I have a report. Yes, so I basically received swabs from a firearm.
Okay. Where were these items located prior to your examination of them?
They were located in our evidence vaults with the evidence custodian within the laboratory.
Okay, when you received these items, were they sealed?
Yes, they were sealed and they had the correct identifier and they were intact.
Okay, any evidence of tampering whatsoever?
No, I would have indicated that in my notes.
Did you personally open the package and remove the components of it?
Yes, I did.
And I know you mentioned a couple of swabs. Did that also include a buccal swab?
There was a standard, that's what we call a standard sample swab present as part of the items.
Okay. Now, what did you do with those items prior to the DNA analysis?
So the items came in the form of swabs, like the cotton tip applicators, and I basically taped them to a 3x5. It looks like a 3x5 index card, and put them in a foil-lined envelope and sealed them, just to retain them to take them through DNA analysis at a later time.
Okay, and I want to back up because we mentioned swabs of people swabs, and those people swabs were of the defendant. Is that correct?
There were swabs from the subject, yes.
Okay, and were there other swabs that were submitted to the lab as well?
Yes, there were, but only one set was from, like, as a standard.
Right. The other swabs, though, where were they from?
They were from a firearm.
On which items exactly did you perform that DNA analysis?
So I performed DNA analysis on 3 items. One which was a swab from the front sight of the firearm. Front sight. Sight.
SIGHT.
Yes. Front sight. Yes. There was a swab from the firearm, all around the firearm, and then lastly a swab of the magazine of the firearm.
And what analysis did you do on those?
Those had DNA analysis, STR DNA analysis performed on them.
Were you able to obtain a DNA profile from these swabs?
Only from 2 of the swabs. The swab from the front sight of the firearm did not contain enough DNA for me to finish the whole process.
Okay, and after you get those profiles, what do you do next?
Well, the next step would be to interpret whatever data I have. In this case, there were 2 separate samples that provided mixtures of DNA profiles.
Okay, what was the result of that comparison?
Basically, I will start with the first one, which was the swab of the firearm, and that sample generated a mixture of DNA profiles. So it was basically at least 3 contributors, including at least 1 male, but there was a predominant or major DNA profile that was obtained at 18 of the 21 locations tested, and that predominant female DNA profile was found to match, and we call this a partial profile. This was found to match the standard obtained from subject D link.
Now, what was the statistic that you calculated for matching that?
So basically, the result of the statistical calculation was that the probability of finding a DNA profile in the population matching this predominant female DNA profile was 1 in 28.78 septillion.
Septillion, that's a very big number.
Yes,
Do you know just offhand what the population of the Earth is?
it's now about 8 billion.
Okay, and septillion would be significantly larger than that?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that one swab. What about the other swabs?
So there was another swab, and that was a swab of the magazine. And that swab also generated a mixture of DNA profiles, so more than 1 DNA profile. And that was of at least 2 contributors, including at least 1 male. But that specific DNA sample was a DNA sample with very low-level DNA. And I was not able to make any comparisons because of the type of DNA that was obtained. Again, it was low-level. It was not very informative. So the conclusion was that due to the complexity, there were no comparisons made.
Okay. And now, after you obtained that match, what conclusion did you make after all your work that was done?
Well, basically, after performing the statistical calculation, which with the number that I provided, it was determined that because the probability is so rare, it is unreasonable to conclude that somebody else would be the source of that predominant DNA profile found in the mixture of DNA profiles.
Is there a threshold frequency that you also use?
For that specifically, yes, and it's 1 in 320 billion.
Why do you use that threshold?
We use that threshold because it's an approximation of 1,000 times the population of the US itself, which is a little over 300 million. So this is 1,000 times that. So anything above that, we basically conclude that it is unreasonable that somebody else, that's not the individual matching, would be the source of that DNA profile.
Okay. And if you know the answer, do you know what the population of Miami-Dade County is?
It's a little over 2 million.
And Safe Harbor?
It's, I guess, around 20 million, 23 million.
And you mentioned that the United States is about 300 million?
Yes,
And
340
the
million.
entire Earth is 8 billion, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So ma'am, you said that as far as the firearm is concerned, you only found testable DNA on 2 of the swabs, correct?
There were only 2 that had enough DNA present for me to perform the full DNA analysis.
Correct. One was the magazine, and the other was just the firearm, correct?
Correct.
Any specific area of the firearm?
The description I obtained was just swab of firearm, no real description as to where.
So we can't say precisely on what part of the firearm the swab came from.
No, I cannot. No.
So you said that there was a mixture of DNA, and I'm focusing on the swab of the firearm, right? You said there was a mixture of DNA, including at least 3 people, and at least one of them is male. Is that correct?
That's right.
Now, from that swab, were you able to obtain that complete male profile?
No, I was not.
So if you were to receive, for example, a DNA swab from a male who may or may not have come in contact with that gun, and you had that swab, would you have been able to test it against this swab of the firearm?
In this case, I couldn't have made a direct comparison because of the complexity of that minor component that I spoke about. The matching profile, the standard profile match, the predominant, what was clear was the predominant DNA profile. That was a female. So anything, including the male, would be part of that minor component that I wouldn't be able to really make any determinations as to whether somebody is included or not.
So even if you had a profile from a male who could have come in contact with that gun, and even though you wouldn't be able to match it, you can, as you sit here, you can tell us, you are able to tell us definitively that at least one male at some point came in contact with this gun because their DNA was on it, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, with major and minor profiles, is it sometimes, not necessarily all the time, but sometimes isn't it common for the major contributor to a DNA mixture to be the last person to have contact with the firearm or with the object that you're testing?
That's very difficult to ascertain. We really cannot, as a DNA analyst, I cannot tell you based on what the mixture looks like when there is no time, really no time frame or how. None of those things can be answered, only the data basically that I obtain.
Let me give you an example, and you can tell me if this is reasonably possible based on your knowledge and expertise. Let's say that an individual, a man named Pedro, grabbed this firearm that you tested and pistol whipped somebody with it. Right? Pistol whipped somebody.
That's what I say all the time.
Then, 5 days later, a female named Daisy shoots that firearm. And then shortly after that, that gun is seized and taken to police and ultimately finds its way to your desk. Is it likely or reasonable that the minor contributor could be the man Pedro, who I just mentioned, and the major contributor could be Daisy because she was the one who most recently had the gun and fired it?
Well, no, we can't really say that because there are so many variables that determine how much DNA is left on an item. People, what we call are shedders, some are non-shedders of DNA. Some people shed DNA cells more than others. It's very difficult to determine really what level of activity or order of activities or anything of the sort.
And I understand that you can't tell us exactly because you don't have all the information. You only have limited information.
Correct.
But based on the information I just gave you, can you reasonably rule out that scenario that I just laid out for you?
No, I cannot rule out any scenario because I can only tell you what the data says.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all.
Of course.
So, what?
To be clear, the majority of the DNA was female belonging to D-Link.
The predominant profile in the mixture, or what we call the major profile, was a profile matching that of subject D-Link.
Okay, I have no further questions, John.
Thank you.
So the only DNA found was hers, but there was also some male DNA. But if she had been pistol whipped and then shot it, it could be... No, I can't say that. Oh, okay. I seen 5 minutes of Rocky Horror Picture Show. I don't understand why people like that movie. I know everyone loves it. I just don't understand it. I was at a Rocky Horror Picture Show when I was deployed, and all of these people doing all the things and dancing along, it was just annoying. I went out and had beers instead. I understood beers. Not everyone. Well, everyone is always telling me that, and The Big Lebowski is a great movie. No. No, but it's become one of those cult classic that everyone must see, and I don't get it. But hey, not everyone understands that Master and Commander is one of the greatest maritime movies in all history. Well, he was a transvestite in Transylvania, isn't that his song? No, it's also a Danish thing with the Big Lebowski, but it's just boring. Thank you. Big Lebowski is probably funny when you're stoned. I don't know. It's kind of like Monty Python is way better when you're high.
Raise your hand, please. You solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Well, someone was shot because apparently he was trying to throw her she was trying to throw him out of the house. That's what we kind of heard. How baby Venti was made, we think this is the way. She was then put into the Turner Guilford Night Correction Center, where she became pregnant. And you're saying, but Baker, you old fuddy-duddy, how do you become pregnant in prison? Well, apparently another inmate, Juan Depes, who's also charged with unaliving, and her started communicating through the vent system. They started talking about Juan, or Johan, however you pronounce his name, wanted to have a child. But he probably couldn't because he was in prison for unaliving someone. So how do you get someone pregnant? How do you get someone pregnant when you're in prison? Well, oh, Jamie, you're gonna love this. Apparently, he whacks off in either a glove or some saran wrap, and and that's so stupid. And then you send it over to her. And and she puts the baby batter inside the oven. It
What is happening?
Oh, Jamie, you didn't hear?
No. I just pulled your stream up and you're laughing. So I was like, I got to get on here immediately.
Well, we're covering a case where a girl went to prison for pew-pewing her boyfriend. It happens. Who hasn't
Yeah.
done that? But in prison, she meets a new guy, and they start communicating through the vent system. And he really want to have a baby.
While in prison?
Yeah, well, he's also in there for murder, so probably not going to go out and make one the natural way.
Oh, yeah, he's not going to be a great dad.
He beats off in some saran wrap or glove or something.
They will find a way.
You take some saran wrap, and then you take your cream bottle, lotion bottle, and give it some really, really good shakes. Maybe you're thinking about, I don't know, Pamela Anderson in Baywatch. Maybe you're thinking about Auntie Bev sighing on the throne. And then when you have shaken your bottle enough, you then You put some lotion in the saran wrap. So this is how we think the baby was made, if anyone was questioning.
Good afternoon. Can you please introduce yourselves to the members of the jury?
Good afternoon. My name is Danny Morales. I work for the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, and I'm currently in the Homicide Bureau.
How long have you worked there?
I've worked for Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office for about 8 years.
That's a
and
busy
in the Homicide
time.
Unit for 4.
And were you working in your capacity as a police officer on June 25th, 2022?
Yes, sir.
How did you first become involved in this case?
So at approximately 4:15 on that day in the morning, I was handling the phones that day in the Homicide Bureau. There was a call that came in reference to a death. Homestead Police Officer Nicholson was reporting a homicide that occurred that morning.
The kids is 2 years old. It's with the baby daddy's mother.
And he shared some details about that.
Okay. What details did he share with you?
Well, initially he mentioned that a call,
I like to keep eye
Homestead Police
contact.
officers were dispatched in reference to a female that found a deceased body or a male that was shot. Officers responded to that area and located the individual. And additionally, he added that the reporting person was later identified as Daisy Link, who happened to be the girlfriend of the individual that was shot.
Did he advise if he observed a blood trail on scene?
He did.
Okay. Did he tell you where that blood trail was to or from?
Essentially, it was from the...
He looks a little bit like Auntie Deb.
residence where the two individuals that were involved, Daisy Link and the victim, resided, to where the body of the victim was found.
Did he also advise of the incident location itself?
1237 Northwest 14th Street in Homestead.
And is that in Miami-Dade County?
That is in Miami-Dade County.
Now, I know you said that you were handling the phones that day for homicide. Did you contact anyone in reference to this case?
Yeah, so the structure of the Homicide Bureau is one person is handling the phones, and essentially there's a team that's on call. That on-call team that day happened to be my team as well, although I was working the midnight shift. So I essentially called my own sergeant, who called out the rest of the team.
Did you yourself respond to that incident location?
I did.
When you arrived, what did you do, if anything at all?
So I was the first detective that arrived on scene. Officer Nicholson and several other Homestead Police Department officers were already there, as they are the initial department that responded. So as the first detective that was there, I went to Officer Nicholson. He's the lead officer on the scene. At that point, there was a female that was later identified as Daisy Link, sitting essentially on the scene. She was kind of lingering around, but seated in front of the scene, which was a little odd to me. And that's when I approached her.
Okay, now you said it was a little odd that she was kind of lingering around. Why?
Well, primarily she was in the middle of the scene, which is not something that you normally see. Usually the scene is secure. There's not anybody walking around or anything of that nature. On top of the fact that she was a reporting person, she had a relationship to the victim. Those were just things that were, raised a couple red flags for me.
Okay, so when you approached her, what, if anything, happened?
So I approached her, I verified her name, her relationship. I tried to get some further information on who this person is and what her involvement is, aside from being the one that called 911. She was very apprehensive, almost like irritated with my presence. At that point.
Just a second.
Tony J. Tony T.
I'll take a quick coffee break now. It's gonna be about 10-15 minutes. Okay.
All right, the jurors.
So now they have to argue again. We can't hear them argue.
I'm gonna give it to her.
Okay.
Are we going on another break? Yep. Why is everything ending in a break? It's really, really annoying. The defendant or who? I can with 100% certainty say I've never seen her before. She likes a break, yeah, but she's also yelling at them that they have to get done. Can you be done tomorrow? Can you be done tomorrow? And then we take these long breaks. Why couldn't they? We had an hour and 10 minutes lunch break. Why can't they do a working lunch? Why can't they? It's kind of like the Memphis case. All of a sudden, we had these big breaks because we had to argue things that should have been argued. No, DeSoto. No, the Memphis case. One of the cases we covered. Just get to it. Just move on. Of course, he didn't want him to testify about what she said to him, and he's claiming it's hearsay. It's not. She's a party opponent. They can't testify what she told them. Well, she wasn't Mirandized. No, but anything you say can and will be used against you. Boop, 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 boop. So, what are you all up to? Any big plans for the weekend? Anyone doing anything interesting? I think I'm doing retro dance tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll have some banger tunes like YMCA or I don't know. She has a tendency to play a lot of Latin American music. I don't really see that as retro music, especially when it's modern music. Zach, you are just jealous that I'm hanging out with the Cougar Club while you are paying your massage therapist to give you a quick handy. Making avocado toast with homemade bread. I like the homemade bread part. The avocado, chuck it in the water. You're going to the seaside to meet with friends for a tiki weekend. That sounds cool. Doing some fall clean out and decluttering. Yeah, I was hoping you were going to do all my work for me and do all the spreadsheets I need for the next 5 cases. Canadian Thanksgiving, and my son is home from the military. Well, say happy Thanksgiving to him, and good that he serves. It's good for young men to go into the army. Go into the shore. Enjoy it. Oh, tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, if you are so inclined and you just want to hang out and talk with the kid and all the other lovely ladies, I don't know what they're talking about. I think it's mostly how wonderful I am and how glad they are that they get to work for me as much unpaid, that I treat them kind of like Snow White treats the 7 dwarfs. All of these wonderful things that they're saying about me. If you want to hang out with that, please join the Discord where they will do that now and again. Sunday, they have movie night. I had a request for actually Rocky Horror Picture Show last Monday, or this Monday. But that's not me. That's Sean and Jamie, who runs the movie club every Sunday. 2 movies. One of them is good. The other one is a talkie, which means that Jamie is sitting all the way through the second movie asking what happened in the first movie, because she's one of those. So join the Discord and hang out. It's also where you'll see all the evidence photos and whatever. There's a motion to dismiss in the Courtney Clenny case. The Courtney Clenny case is set to start around December 1st. Probably a little bit later. They have to find a jury. But there's a motion to dismiss because they believe that the police have ordered some evidence destroyed. I don't think they're going to win it. I might, if I find some time over the weekend, look at it. It's a long time since we looked at the Courtney Clenny case, and I think I'm going to be covering it. It's one of those cases everyone will be covering. Maybe if there's something else interesting out there, because the only good thing is you can use a lot of scantily clad ladies in your thumbnails, and then you'll realize true crime is watched by 87.6% female. Probably is not gonna be the big thing to show her. Maybe the pictures of her. She has the worst feet on the planet. So yeah. You're going to bed, been at work since Monday with clients. Sleep is important, I've heard. I haven't tried it yet. Sue, I know that's what you're doing. Oh, I'm so happy Baker is the only one who knows who I am deep down. Yes, I am a career criminal. Yes, I am a hick from the Appalachians. He's the only one who understands me. So, if you want it, yeah. What's Courtney Clenny case about? Courtney Clenny is an OnlyFans model who I've covered it before. There's like 3 videos, one from Las Vegas where she's sitting in a drunk tank after she attacked her boyfriend, one from Aspen, I think, where she is yelling and attacking him for making her start doing drugs again because she was just stopped, and then because the way he is. And then there's one where she beats him up in an elevator. She is accused of stabulating him in the chest. She claims that she was self-defending and just kind of flung a knife and it embedded itself in his heart and he bled out. It's a very bloody case. I don't even know if we have the pictures on the Discord yet, but she claims she was just throwing a knife at him, and unluckily it just hit the right place and killed him instantly. There will be a knife throwing expert in the case. There's been a lot of things because apparently her dad had something to do with her OnlyFans account. So he had access to some of their electronics. And did the dad try and hide some evidence? Did the state try and do something? It's a whole hell of a mess. But she unalived her boyfriend, and it's one of those cases where it's those typical Instagram things where look how perfect our life is, and she's absolutely insane. He smiled at her friend while he passed her on the street on his bike. That's enough to send her into an absolute tailspin of craziness, because smiling at a friend of your girlfriend means that you are banging her. She's yeah. Yeah, there's 3 different videos. The one in the elevator is probably the least horrible. The one from Las Vegas where she's talking about she did it, but she had to do it because he made her do it, and she seems very disturbed. And looking at the pictures from inside their apartment, they're living in a penthouse in Florida. Well, I don't know how penthouse it is, but hey, it's fancy Florida. And it just looks like hobos live there. It's absolutely disgusting how they live. So it's probably going to hear a lot about drugs and stuff like that too. Oh. We don't see many Texas cases being covered online. I'm pretty sure it's just as hard as it is being a man. Life isn't easy. If you think that, I have sad news for you. Well, you should see how it is to be a man. Yeah, because what is it? 95% of all women go after the same 5% of men. So easy to be a man. Yeah, totally. He made her do it. He walked straight into that knife. She didn't even throw it that hard. Anyone who posts a positive on Facebook or Instagram are probably about to break up. You can always see when everyone amps up there, Oh, just took my lovely wife out to the restaurant. We love each other so much. Yep, someone is banging someone else. Caitlyn Jenner says it's much easier. He would know. Wasn't it Shania Twain who says, "Man, I feel like a woman"? I would love that everyone gave me compliments and held my door. And that I had titlets I could play with. Well, I kind of do, but it's moops. It's not the same. Yes, I watched the Amish guy in Ohio who tries to pull back his confession. He says he didn't understand his rights and he had to stay and have smecks. Well, not have smecks made, I think is the word he used, with this lady because someone was threatening him with weapons or something. He doesn't seem to be all the way there. There was a clip, but it's the ones I found, it doesn't seem like it's the full clip. Yeah. That's a really, really good way of no, we just made a his and her because we're so in love. Yeah, I was. Someone asked me if why I didn't have a Facebook account for my channel, and I'm like, does anyone use Facebook? Then I asked my mods, and they said, yeah, because we're grandmas. We go in there for our knitting recipes.
Any objection to Mr. Laws' jury stand or conflict? The objection, I can sustain it in front of the jury. Mr. Rubio asked a question. I'm not going to strike it. He just started his testimony and looks like we're all on the same page now. Okay.
So I'm a little confused, I guess, because we couldn't, for the court overrule the objection.
I did?
You did.
Oh, all right.
I think it's entirely relevant to the defendant's demeanor on scene, especially with detectives, which will be corroborated by the robbery video of her being aggressive with other officers as well, specifically non-Agent Norris.
What?
They're claiming that she was a victim, that she was scared. That they couldn't take her to the homicide headquarters. They took her to robbery instead. Defense is claiming that Ms. Link was acting self-defense, was scared, etc. Her being aggressive to detectives trying to question her is entirely relevant to the determinations of case subsequently making, including bringing her to the scene, placing her in the back of the police vehicle, taking her to headquarters to interview her. It's entirely relevant.
So, Judge, and I know we already discussed this, but my concern is that this witness was teetering on volunteering that Ms. Link was refusing to cooperate or refusing to speak with police, adding issues that he wasn't asked about, saying that she was aggressive or what have you. That's improper. He's trying to inject himself and make an argument to the jury. He needs to answer the questions, and I think he's going to do that now. At least I hope he will. If he doesn't, I'll do something about it.
Question as asked on some level, Mr. Rubio needs a little leeway to review, so we don't go into areas that we're not supposed to detect it, and he'll do so.
So am I allowed to ask if she was being aggressive?
You can ask, what was her demeanor?
Well, I want
How was
clarity.
she acting? What did she look like? Was she red? Was she flushed? Etc. How was she clothed? Yeah.
Okay.
But it can't just be, did you encounter her? And what was that like? And blah, blah, and you have a narrative with extra adjectives that are not responsive to the question.
Understood.
I know the defense talked about self-defense in their openings, but what you all say is not evidence. So at some point.
It may not be evidence, Your Honor, but it does open the door to make certain arguments, just like I mentioned that, I think it was yesterday too, when I filed a motion for a request for judicial notice. It might.
Is it? I know it's really hard to hear, but isn't he very condescending towards the judge? I feel he's very consenting towards the judge. Like I told you yesterday, Your Honor. Oh, by the way, maybe I can. No, I do have the booster. Maybe I can turn the booster up a little bit so we can hear him more. but I feel like he is condescending towards the judge. He doesn't like his second chair, but the judge as well.
Not be evidence, but it opens the door to different arguments.
At some point, it may be too much to prove that. So right now, the self-defense claim, it's there, mostly because of the opening statement, and a little bit based on a hypothetical that Cosette Alvarez answered. Some of it regarding the pictures or injuries, those are not evidence yet. But
no, this isn't fighting back. He is he's talking to her in a way we don't normally hear. Yeah, and the way he talked about his second chair yesterday, I don't like that, and I'm a misogynist.
I would just be careful eliciting information at this stage when a full self-defense claim hasn't been laid yet in front of the jury. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay, does that make sense, Mr. Ross? So there may be an opportunity where, unfortunately, if you want to make a call to call back witnesses or call rebuttal witnesses, depending on whether or not the self-defense claim is fully flushed out, that may be the more appropriate time. Okay? All right, I think we're on the same page. Just go ahead and bring back the jury.
All right, we adjourn.
No, the judge doesn't make a clear ruling on a lot of it, and I think it's because we can't hear half of what she's saying. And she keeps asking when they're done.
And all managers are accounted for, lawyers, this link can be seen. Thank you.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Thank you. So Detective, let's back up a little bit, okay? You've mentioned Daisy Link, Miss Link a few times. Do you see Daisy Link in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
Can you please point her out and describe her by what she's wearing?
She's sitting right over here. It's a black floral shirt.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant. Okay. Now, going back to when you arrived on scene, when you first arrived on scene, there were police officers there?
Homestead police officers.
Okay. And Daisy Link was on scene. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Where exactly was she on scene, if you remember?
So directly in front of 1237 Northwest 14th Street. Right in
her residence?
The residence, yes, right in front of the door.
Did you approach her?
I did.
How was her demeanor when you approached?
So originally she's sitting down. So, you know, from a distance, you just see a woman sitting down. But once I came up to her, it's when she became a little aggressive, in my opinion.
Okay. Were you concerned with her presence on scene?
100%, yes.
Why?
It's not normal to have somebody sitting in the middle of a crime scene. Regardless, this crime scene was a little larger than normal, and she was sitting right in the middle of it.
When you first approached her, was she a person of interest?
At that point, no. I had just gotten there. All I knew was that she had a relationship with the victim, and that's from what Officer Nicholson told me.
Did you attempt to remove her from the scene so that way you can do your police work?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what did that entail?
So interacting with her and trying to verify her information, and I like to respect the person I'm speaking to, so I asked her name and whatnot. That's when she became a little aggressive, ultimately trying to,
So before we get to that, tell me exactly what you mean by she was being aggressive.
I can't, his face is Andy Depp, Will Wheaton, and Pedro Pascal. All at the same time. It's annoying me to all hell. And his tie looks like something my kid would have drawn in the 3rd grade.
It was more of her demeanor, just the lack of wanting to cooperate, lack of wanting.
Objection, improper comment, and speculation by this witness.
To be clear,
You
though,
were just
she does
told
not
you
have to
couldn't talk
cooperate.
about this.
She does not.
Now, moving forward, what, if anything, happened with Miss Link between you and her?
So Miss Link, when I went to detain her and put handcuffs on her, attempted to grab a white chair that was next to me, or next to her, and tried to swing it. That time I was able to detain her, and with the help of Homestead police officer that came and helped me as well.
When you were detaining her, what did you specifically do?
So he poured hot sauce in his condoms. I had a guy when I was deployed. He used 2 condoms and then he put Tiger Balm between them, because, as you said, either me or the lady would find out if one of them broke.
Put handcuffs on her.
Don't be
Hold
deployed.
her arms as any other arrest would take place.
Why were you detaining her at that point?
At that point, one, she's in the middle of the crime scene. 2, she became a person of interest, and we wanted to just remove that person from the crime scene. That way there's no evidence that was tampered with. That way she would be monitored inside of a police vehicle, and we can transport her to our headquarters for an interview.
Did you also pat her down when you detained her?
I did, yes.
Why did you pat her down?
That's normal officer safety. Make sure she doesn't have any weapons or anything on her that can harm me or herself.
Did you locate anything on her person?
Yeah, there was a cell phone and a car key.
Okay, and did that car key belong to any vehicle in particular?
The car key ended up belonging to a Chevy Trax.
Now, when you found that car key, or if you noticed it at all when you were patting Miss Link down, what, if anything, was the defendant's reaction to you finding that car key?
So the car key was in her pocket, and she attempted to, remember she's sitting down at this point when I go to detain her, she attempted to kind of roll over onto that side to kind of hide what she had in her pocket.
Objection, speculation.
Did you do anything else on scene?
At that point, we placed her in the vehicle, and I was instructed to author some warrants.
Okay. Before we talk about your warrants and the process for obtaining a warrant, let's talk about if you contacted anybody other than the other homicide detectives. Did you speak to anybody?
Yeah, so there was 2 children at the residence. I learned that their grandmother was local. I contacted the grandmother to have them come get picked up.
And did she respond to the scene?
She did, yes.
Was anybody else with her?
Crystal Barreto, which ends up being, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Daisy Link's sister, which was the daughter of the grandmother.
Okay. Now, when they responded to the scene, both the defendant's grandmother, Josephina Perez, as well as Crystal Barreto, did you approach them?
Yeah, so they weren't allowed to the immediate scene. Obviously, it's cordoned off by crime scene tape. So I walked to them at the intersection, and at that point, that's when I kind of informed them of everything that was going on.
And what was either of their reaction when you informed them what was going on?
So Crystal Barreto immediately, spontaneously stated the words, "If he is dead, Daisy must have shot him."
Okay. Now, to be clear again, Crystal doesn't have to speak to you.
Correct.
She doesn't have to cooperate.
No.
Did you attempt to gain further information after Ms. Barreto spontaneously stated this?
I would just object and move to strike as to the hearsay statement this witness just volunteered.
So it's the same?
Judge, can we go to sidebar?
Sure.
Another break.
From the last. The objection from the last question and answer is overruled. If you want to re-ask it,
Sure.
go ahead.
When you approached Crystal Barreto and you identified yourself and what you were there for, did she do anything in response?
She made a statement to me.
Okay, did you prompt her for a statement?
No, it was a spontaneous statement.
And what was that statement?
If he is dead, Daisy must have shot him.
And he being the victim in this case?
Correct.
Okay. Now, at this point in time that Crystal and her mother and you were on scene, had you identified any shooters?
No, at that point, no.
Did you have any subjects?
No.
So this was essentially the first information that you're getting that there was somebody who may be a person of interest.
Yeah, at that point, it kind of built a storyline for me.
I'm sorry, at that point,
It kind of built like a storyline for me.
it built like a.
Storyline?
Now, again, Ms. Barreto, her mother, even the defendant don't have to cooperate with you, right?
That's correct.
Did you seek to obtain any additional information from Ms. Barreto?
Yeah, I attempted to speak to her and figure out what her relationship was and what information she may have to provide us. And at that point, she didn't.
Objection, there's no question pending on that topic.
So the answer is yes, you tried to obtain information, and now Mr. Urbina is going to ask another question.
Did she provide any information?
She did not provide any information.
Did she refuse to provide information?
Yes.
What was her demeanor when you were trying to obtain this information?
Just a normal conversation, but they didn't want to provide information.
Now, let's back up. I know you mentioned how homicide works a little bit, but can you explain how homicide teams themselves works in your unit?
Okay, so there's essentially 8 homicide teams, 4 in the day shift, 4 in the afternoon shift. Each team has a supervisor, and under that supervisor, normally 4 to 5 detectives within that team.
And when there is a homicide, is there a lead appointed, or you guys kind of just do your own thing?
No, so there's a rotation of teams, and then within your team, there's also a rotation of who gets cases. So that way, the same detective doesn't get multiple cases back to back.
Were you the lead on this case?
I was not the lead.
Who was?
Detective Joseph Cruz.
Now, when leads are appointed, are you relaying all the information that you learned to the lead?
Yes, we provide any information that we learn to the lead detective.
Are you also given assignments by the lead?
Yes.
Now, what if any assignments did Detective Cruz give you?
I was given the task of authoring a search warrant for the residence.
And the residence being that 1237 address that you mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's talk about warrants for a second. What actually is a search warrant?
So essentially, it's a document that is requesting to go and receive, obtain property from a location or a vehicle, even a device that is reviewed by myself, a supervisor, an attorney, ultimately the judge either granting it or denying it, and allowing us to enter that structure.
Now, I know you kind of mentioned the process in which, whether no judge grants it or not, but I want to back up even further. Is this something that you just write up and then walk into a house, or is there actually a process for that?
No, it's a very lengthy process.
Okay. And you mentioned an attorney. What attorney has to review a search warrant?
The state attorney, whoever's on call for that week.
Okay. And a judge also has to review that?
Correct.
And they have the choice whether or not they can grant it or not?
Correct.
Was a search warrant granted in this case?
Yes.
And that search warrant was for that residence?
Yes.
Was that warrant executed?
Yes.
Okay. What, if anything, let me ask you this. Did you execute that warrant?
I was part of the team that executed it, yes.
And what does it mean when you execute a warrant?
So essentially, documentation of that location that we have a warrant for, searching that residence for any items of evidentiary value. That's the gist of it, yeah.
Did you walk into that residence?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you see there?
So the house is, there's obviously children items in there, female items in there, and adult male clothing and shoes.
Was that the only warrant that was executed in this case?
No, there was other warrants.
Can you tell us what other warrants?
I had authored a vehicle warrant for a Chevy Trax, and also a cellular device that I obtained from Miss Link when I detained her.
Let's talk about that cell phone warrant, and we'll go to the Sebi Tracks warrant in a moment, but that cell phone belonged to the defendant?
It belonged to the defendant, yes.
And do you know what number was associated with that cell phone?
So I know it's 786562. Can't remember the last four. I'm sorry.
If your report will refresh your recollection, please refer to your report.
If anyone is wondering, Denmark is up 3-0 Belarus. Oh, White Russia, as it used to be known.
The cell phone number is not on here.
Okay. I'll move on then.
Okay.
Was that warrant executed?
Yes, it was.
And why did you obtain a search warrant for the defendant's cell phone?
So when we were doing the residential search warrant, there was Ring camera, so we believe that there was a Ring camera app on the cell phone.
Oh, now the Ring camera.
Now, when you executed that warrant, what, if anything, of evidentiary value did you yourself observe?
I watched Ring camera footage.
Okay. Let's talk about that cell phone for a moment as well. Was there also a warrant to further get into that cell phone?
Yeah, so the warrant is to be able to search the device.
And you authored that?
I authored it, and I'm the one that went through the process of getting it granted.
Okay. And do you have to turn that phone over to somebody to actually execute that warrant as well?
Yeah, we provided to a forensics analyst.
Do you recall what analyst received the phone?
Sergeant Sergio Cremesini.
So we're probably going to see half a quarter of a screen, so we can't see anything. But it looks like finally the Rock has come home.
Are you aware if he executed, was able to get into the phone?
He was.
Was he able to download the contents of that phone?
Yes, he did.
Showing defense counsel
Get
to
some
produce
sleep, yeah.
for identification purposes. Yeah. And
It's
without
almost
objection,
8:30.
moving
Well, it
into
is
evidence, Your Honor.
8:30 right now.
That is correct, but if we can go sidebar quickly.
Oh, almost like us. So there is a video from the Ring camera, and we're going to see that hopefully. Well, I hope we can see some of it. Hey, Tom. Always a long day from the baker, but you know how it is. Ain't no sleeping on the job when you work for Jamie. You're lucky that you're self-employed because I can't recommend Jamie as a boss. She stops by 5 minutes and then, oh, work harder. And then she leaves again. I like take that.
Stay Exhibit 1F,
Get back.
marked for identification, now becomes Stay Exhibit 16, Judge.
Back for good.
Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead before we talk about the actual video itself.
Celebrate.
At the point in time that you're executing those warrants and reviewing this evidence, is the defendant on scene?
No, she's not.
Where was she?
She was transported to the Miami-Dade headquarters, which is where our office is.
Who else was there?
Detective Melanie Janoris and Detective Joseph Cruz.
Okay. Did you relay the information that you learned about the Ring camera to them?
Yes, I did.
And do you know what they were doing at the point in time that you relayed this information to them?
They were attempting to interview Daisy Link.
Okay. Now, what, if anything, did you do next?
At that point, we had already executed the search warrants.
Okay.
I relayed the information to Detective Janoris.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you canvass the area?
So we did an area canvas for surveillance footage, yeah.
Okay. What is an area canvas?
So we're essentially going door by door, all the neighbors, trying to see if anybody heard, saw anything, or if they have any surveillance footage at their residence.
Okay. Now, were you successful in locating any additional cameras?
So there was one residence that did have surveillance footage that we observed.
Do you know where
Denmark is up 4-0.
residence was?
So the address is 1300 Northwest 15th Street.
Do you recall about how far away from the incident location that residence is?
It's not far at all.
Like right around the corner?
Yeah, right around the corner.
Did you make contact with the homeowner?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall his name?
Robert or Roberto Cisneros.
Did he advise that he had surveillance cameras?
He did. He allowed us into his residence to view them.
Okay. Now, you viewed those cameras yourselves?
I did.
Before we talk about what you saw on those, was there any evidence that Mr. Cisneros had destroyed, altered, or tampered in any way with those cameras?
No, not at all.
Was there any wires that were cut?
None that I observed, no.
Anything destroyed?
No.
Okay. And did you watch those cameras with Mr. Cisneros?
Yeah, he allowed us into his home and allowed us, essentially they're experts in their own system. So he allowed us and showed us what was on his cameras.
Okay. What did those cameras show?
Judge, I would object to it's cumulative, it's already been presented to the jury.
For your objection, you can answer.
So the victim is observed on the cameras walking westbound down an alleyway. He appears to be slumped over.
The other guy said eastbound.
Not slumped over, but kind of like dragging himself. He hides in some bushes. At that point, we see a vehicle that drives eastbound in the alleyway. After that, we see the victim come back out of that bushy area of the backyard and eventually collapse on the ground.
Did you, you said you saw a vehicle. Do you recall what vehicle that was?
It's the vehicle, the Chevy Trax that was initially on scene.
Okay, and that's the same Chevy Trax that you authored a search warrant for?
Yes.
And that same Chevy Trax had a search warrant that was granted and executed on?
Yes.
Did you see anything else on those cameras?
You could see a person, female, who I believed was Daisy Linked at that time, to go up to the body of the victim. At some point, she goes up to the body, manipulates the body of some sort, go back to the vehicle, and then come back to the body.
Now, you yourself are not a video retrieval detective, correct?
I am not.
Okay. Now, when you want to take possession of certain videos, certain surveillance videos, do you also call out for those officers?
Yeah, so there's a video forensics unit that will respond, and they are the experts in all types of systems, and they retrieve the footage that we request from them.
The video that you just described, was that consistent with anything else that was on scene?
Consistent with the blood trail that we had seen on scene, the vehicle matching the key is all that we had obtained. That was pretty much it.
Do you know if there was a time delay at all between when a 911 call went out to when the victim may or may not have been shot?
Yes, I believe it was about 10 minutes.
Okay. And are you aware if that footage that you just described also is consistent with a time delay in that?
Yeah, like I mentioned, you can see the female coming out of the vehicle, going back and forth from inside the vehicle into the body. And that's consistent with the 10 minutes of time delay.
Now, I want to go back to the conversation that we had about Detective Norris, Detective Cruz, and what you viewed on ring camera footage. Now, I know that you said that they were in the middle of attempting to speak to Miss Lang, right?
Yes.
Now, what, if anything, did you specifically relay to them?
So I had watched a ring camera video on the phone that depicted Miss Link with a firearm, and some audio that was attached to that video as well. I asked Detective Janoris to be a text. If she was free, she called me. I informed her with that information.
Permission to publish evidence, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Now playing what has been entered into evidence, portion of state's evidence 16.
Just gonna skip ahead of that. Around 5 minutes.
Sue, did you put the video on the Discord? Because let's watch the video instead, because this is just annoying. Take a look. Yeah, this is what they're watching now. So let's see it. And there's a cat over here. See? That's a kitty cat over here. Oh, someone is yelling in the back. It's probably gonna get a lot louder right now because I'm turning the audio back up. So everyone, just take care of your ear holes. And you can hear there's some screaming in the background. Oh, she's toast. Let's just get her back on screen. Listen to what she says, and funny enough, she did hit a major artery. I think she says, "You'll be fine," before she walks into the, and then she says something about, "Unless you hit a major artery, you'll be fine." If they are going for a stand your ground, castle defense, self-defense, her walking off that cavalier, just, "You'll be fine. Nah, it's nothing." We heard him screaming before, "I don't want to die." I hear it as, "Unless you hit a major artery, you'll be fine." But again, it's really hard. She's very cavalier with her pew, yeah, and she's just walking. It's nothing there. That's if this is self-defense, even if he pistol whipped her 2 days before, again, remember the Ashley Benefield. She also told how she was being punched by this guy. This lady is absolutely cold as ice. Is she saying, "Do you want me to get you to the hospital?" No? Or what is she saying? Oh, hop, hop. Listen around here, you can hear him screaming in the background. I can't boost the sound because you'll just hear even more of that white noise. But try and listen. You can hear him at some point say, "I don't want to die," or something like that. "What are you doing?" is what I hear. "What are you doing? I don't want to die." Yeah, that video was worth waiting for the state to get in because that's not good for the defense. Let's just say that. Thank you for finding that one, Danny.
Consistent with anything?
With gunfire.
Okay. And to be clear, this is the video that you relate, the information that you watch and relate to Detective
Second
Norris?
degree.
Yeah, it was on the Ring app from her phone. I watched it and I gave the information to Detective Norris.
And by her phone, who do you mean?
Daisy Nick's phone.
Okay. And this video itself, is this inconsistent with anything that officers learned on scene? from the
Objection,
defendant?
calls for a conclusion, being promised.
It's the same, he's gonna ask another question.
At this point in time, did you believe you knew who shot Pedro Jimenez after watching
Objection,
this?
being promised to the jury.
It's the same, he's gonna ask another question.
Momentarily, Your Honor.
Yeah, something like that.
Ask this. Detective, what did we hear Ms. Link say on video?
I mean, it's very grainy
Hey,
in this video. It's a lot more clear when I watched it, but it talks about hitting a major artery. It talks about Daisy Link saying, "You'll be fine," and then asking, "Are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital?"
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
So, sir, other than what we just heard right now in that video, is there any other audio in that video that's, in your view, relevant or important to this matter?
There was you can hear a male in the beginning of the video. You can't really tell. It sounds very far out.
Can't tell?
I can't tell.
You didn't think that what was in there was important or relevant to your investigation?
It is relevant, yes.
Okay.
You go to
Make sure to collect that. To me, it sounds like he said, "I don't want to die," but others hear that the other way. Yeah, but we hadn't heard it till now. But this isn't a good video.
That sound like, do it, I want to die! Is that what that sounded like to you? Is that what that sounded like to you?
To be honest, sir, the only thing I can hear from here is the word "die." I can't hear anything else.
Okay.
Sorry.
Would you agree that that was Pedro Jimenez saying that? Screaming that, actually?
speculation.
It's unknown, but based on the information that we know, they were the only two there, so it can be assumed that was him, yes.
Okay. So you would agree that this video shows that Pedro Jimenez was screaming, do it, or what? Something that sounded like, do it, I want to die, shortly before he was shot.
I can say that I hear Pedro Jimenez saying the word "die." I can't hear anything else in there.
You can't make out the rest?
I can't make out with this video right now. I can't make out.
That's all right, the jury probably can.
Okay.
All right, so you were the one who arrested Miss Link, correct?
I detained Mrs. Link
You put cuffs on her?
with the assistance of officers from Homestead Police Department.
Well, who's the one who put cuffs on her?
It was either me or one of the officers that assisted me. I believe it was me or Nicholson.
You don't remember if it was you?
Not 100%, no.
Okay. When you put the cuffs on her, did you do it in front of her 7-year-old child?
Judge objection. Relevance.
Did you do it in front of her 7-year-old child?
I believe the children were inside the residence.
They weren't present?
They're in the residence.
So they were there right in front of you when that happened, right?
No. No.
All right. Crystal Barreto, you said that on the scene, was it on the scene where you met with her?
Right outside of the scene, crime scene tape,
So-
say the intersection.
So you're saying you approached her, and then when you approached her, without you asking anything or saying anything, she spontaneously made that statement to you?
No, there was conversation initially about who I was, my purpose of being there. The purpose of why they were called to the scene to begin with was essentially for them to get the children.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you were concerned about Miss Link being on the scene. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Were you aware that she was told she couldn't leave the scene?
I was not aware.
Would that change your concern if you had known that?
No, at the end of the day, my job is to maintain or make sure that that scene is taken care of, and no evidence is tampered with. And upon my arrival, I witnessed somebody essentially sitting in the middle of the scene.
Well, it sounded like, correct me if I'm wrong, but a moment ago, when you were asked about it, you made it sound like she was there somewhere where she was not supposed to be. Was that your belief at the time?
I'm not saying that she wasn't supposed to be there. At the end of the day, that's her residence. What I am saying is that that is a crime scene, and no one other than police officers should be in that crime scene.
Agreed.
And the deceased person.
Agreed, but up until a moment ago, according to your testimony, you didn't know that she had been told that she couldn't leave.
If I wasn't there, I'm not aware of what the officers may or may not have told her.
So you weren't aware of that until a moment ago, is that correct?
I don't understand your question, sir.
You weren't aware that an officer told her you can't leave until I told you a moment ago, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Officer, was there any evidence, let me ask you this, was there any evidence of the victim having a weapon on him?
No, there was not.
Was there a firearm found on him?
There was not.
Was there a knife found on him?
There was not.
So him saying, "I want to die," to Daisy, she was pointing a gun at him at that point in time?
Objection, calls for speculation, it's not a video.
Judge, can we go sidebar? The point in time that Pedro says that, is there any evidence whatsoever that he was armed?
There was no evidence that Pedro was armed with any type of weapon.
Was there evidence that Daisy Link was armed?
Yeah, the video shows that.
And she's armed with what?
A firearm.
So it'd be a likely conclusion then, we'll actually strike that. And that same firearm was found on scene?
Later on in that day, yes, it was.
And that firearm that was used to kill Pedro Jimenez?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Judge, briefly, just based on your question. The firearm that was found on scene later on, it was found because Daisy Link told you where to look, right?
Actually, no, sir.
No?
No.
Did you find it?
I was present when it was found.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It was found by a dog.
Thank you, ma'am.
We heard that earlier. Weren't you here? I heard that.
All right, folks, I'm going to give you an instruction. It's essentially a limiting instruction. This detective testified about steps he took in his investigation. So, to the extent that Crystal Barreto made a statement to him, that informs his decision-making as a detective on scene. It doesn't go to the truth of what Crystal Barreto told him, okay? Another limiting instruction. His conclusions of what the video shows and what he believes is said on the video also informs his decision-making as a detective. At the end of the day, what's in the video and what is said on
No,
video.
as he just said, there was no signs of him being
and
armed.
yours alone. You should not rely on any other testifying witnesses' conclusions of that. You are the triers of fact. You review the evidence and you come to your own independent conclusions of what the evidence says and what it shows. Why don't we just take a quick break in the jury room? Thank you.
All right, the jury.
Our jury's in there. I thought that was necessary. You walk in. I probably should have you all in one access to the record. Go ahead and let them know now.
Judge, I'm just going to object. I don't believe that. I understand the second period of instruction. You and I had a trial similar. I understand that one. The first objection, I do not believe the court should have sui sponte made that curative. I do not believe it comes close to invading the propency of the jury. Yes.
Well, let me ask you this. When you went sidebar, why is it that you wanted to elicit the statement from Crystal?
Because it directly goes to the investigation, her becoming a subject at that point in time. It's an excited utter, excuse me, a spontaneous statement, which in and of itself is a exception to the hearsay rule. It was not a offer for the truth of the matter, sir, but for the purposes of eliciting a spontaneous statement. I do not.
Does it inform the next steps of his investigation?
It does, but I don't think that is for the court to instruct the jury on. I understand why the court did it, but.
Well, I'd like to do this once, and I'd like to do this fairly once. We should go ask one access to the record.
No.
Okay. Any objections to giving limited instructions to the jury?
No.
For what it's worth, it goes hand in hand with jury instructions about coming to their own conclusions about the evidence. All right, let's take a 10-minute break. How many other witnesses do you guys have today?
I think this is a good stopping point for today. So we have 3 witnesses left. The Melanie Norris, our enemy, and our phone witness. Those are going to be the lengthier of the testimonies. I understand we wanted to go to 4:30, but as I mentioned this morning, I think that this is a good the stopping point, because at this point in time, it's the defendant's statement and her cell phone and the medical.
How long do you think this is tomorrow?
I mean, the medical examiner takes about an hour, hour and a half. Same thing with the phone dump expert. There's a handful of things that I want to present through him. And then the defendant's statement is more or less 2 hours.
Why, oh, why can't you bring in the medical examiner? She wants to go to 5:30. Bring in the medical examiner now. If it's an hour and a half, that'll be at around 5:30. Why, oh, why are you trying to take over this courtroom? I really dislike this guy.
And then we're done. We're planning on resting that.
The substance of her statement is 2 hours.
I would say somewhere around that. I haven't done all the redactions and moving of it.
Norris is not here for us.
She's not, no.
What about the phone dump?
She's not either, and I have not yet had an opportunity to sit down with him on the phone.
All right, I'll take your word that we have 3 more witnesses to go, and then you'll rest tomorrow. So Mr. Glasses won't have on a case. It's probably going to be Monday.
Tuesday.
I'm sorry, Tuesday.
Yes, and we've already discussed that. We have 2 depositions scheduled for Monday morning.
You're okay with that schedule?
Yes, ma'am.
If you're going to put on a case Tuesday. All right, so I'll bring the jury out and listen for the day. Okay, so
Well, it's a 3-year-old case, so it takes forever.
All right, so jurors.
Thank you.
Yeah, she instructed him, and now he's, oh, sorry, we can't do it.
all 9 jurors are accounted for, we can see it, lawyers and friends results. All right, folks, for the state's case in chief, there's 3 more witnesses. Those will be called tomorrow. I know we're a little off schedule. We're not going to end at 5:30. We're going to end now. The state will finish their case tomorrow. Remember, we all cleared each other's schedule for next week, so we can anticipate coming back on Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll come again, 10:30 to 5:30, a little early, so that thing on Friday afternoon. I'm going to release you in a few minutes. Again, just like we did yesterday, we'll coordinate with Roberto where we look down in this building. Please do not do any research about this case. Please do not look up the places or people that you've heard about. Please don't discuss this case with anyone else. I trust that you're going to follow my instructions. Again, if anyone talks to you about this case, please report it to me and or Roberto. I think that's all. That's regarding the warnings that I will, if you see any of the witnesses, please ignore them. They're instructed to ignore you as well. All right, if there's nothing else, any other instructions? Okay, thank you all. See you tomorrow. And please be here, just like you guys were great today. We'll start on 5 minutes tomorrow.
About 10:30 tomorrow.
It's 10:30. We'll start, so everybody else can get to 10:30.
Yes, ma'am.
The floor is 10:15.
I wanted to think on the record for the last regarding the cumulativeness of Morales testifying about what he saw on the video that Cisneros already testified to. Remember that the body worn camera that was already introduced shows the scene with Mr. Jimenez. And so to the extent that you thought that Morales was testifying to was somehow detrimental to your client, I think that's why you rejected regarding, well, use the word manipulate the body, right? But from what we saw from the body on camera,
Judge, this is different. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. There's 2 different things, right? There's body worn camera where the defendant is seen standing over the victim as he dies, but then also the video that he was describing is the defendant who will be saying in her statement that she went in and was removing items from his pockets. That's what he was talking about.
okay, sorry, I thought it was along the lines of the body on camera shows her upset and trying to render aid. You're saying that that's different from what?
That's a different video itself. So there's the video that Detective Morales viewed with Robert Cisneros, which does not show that because that wasn't captured. It shows the defendant exiting the vehicle, going up to the victim's body, removing items from the victim's body, going back to the shedding tracks, putting them in there, which is consistent with other evidence that's already been introduced, and then going back to it.
What's in the shedding tracks that would be on Mr. Jimenez?
I believe it was his wallet and his phone, if I'm not mistaken.
None of that was introduced.
It was. There's photographs of.
The point I was trying to make is, I believe that Morales' testimony on the issue of the video is, while it might be argued as cumulative, it's not harmless in view of the context of what's already been introduced regarding the body worn camera.
It's not harmless?
No, at all. He's gonna, I'm sorry, harmful. I think this is the defense is going to say something along the lines of harmful. There's 23 minutes of body on camera where she's distraught, trying to assist him, trying to reiterate. Can you show me the photographs of what's in evidence?
Yeah.
For what's in the car?
Can I know there's at least one photo of like a $100 bill or something like that as well.
That I thought was on the,
Hey, you guys want to comment? Yes, it was. Yeah, you know this better than for the Chevy Trax, and there was yes.
So tracks only phone.
Yes,
Morales.
correct.
Yes, Judge.
So Judge, I was mistaken. I thought we introduced the photos of the wallet. We didn't.
Oh, see, I'm not.
We did introduce.
I'm inventing things that I took artistic, right?
We
I don't need a pat on my back. I'm just trying to keep track of everything.
No, of course.
Again, everybody knows things about space. When you're looking at it from a 30,000 foot view,
I thought it was in the packet that we had put
we may
together.
not be compartmentalizing that we're supposed to. Can I see it?
That there's photos of the car though, right?
One part, yeah, of the outside of it, not the inside.
There's photos of the Chevy Trax itself.
So which witness is supposed to introduce these items?
That would have been Officer Zapata.
No, we're just ending.
Yes.
We don't know what they're
Yes.
fighting.
Not the Chevy Trax in it itself is in evidence, which the defendant is seen exiting, which is now also in evidence as well, via the defendant's phone dump. We see her get inside the vehicle and drive off, as well as arrive on scene.
12 $100 bills outside.
Right.
Is there a packet of photographs relating to what was seized from the Chevy Trax?
We're not going to be introducing what was seized via the search warrant.
So how is her manipulating the body through Morales? Is it just to show that she was near the body?
That she will, so her testimony via her statement will be introduced tomorrow. In her statement, she says, detectives confront her with, you pulled something out of his pockets. She says, I had to in order to stop the bleeding or something because his pants were tight. That is corroborative of the video that Robert Cisneros, Detective Morales, and I believe Detective Hubbard also testified to, in which they themselves viewed Miss Link getting outside of the car, approaching the body, going up to the body, taking items out of the body.
So that's the relevance?
Yes, and then returning back to that vehicle.
Are there photographs of what was in her car that you all believe, you can reasonably argue was on Mr. Ennis?
Yes, those exist. Unfortunately, we didn't put them in the packet. We're going to call Detective Zapata now and make sure that she comes back so we can get those last few photographs into evidence.
Okay. Does that make sense? Why I'm bringing this up? Because I was concerned with your objection, but I thought that what was on the body on camera was essentially evidence, and it's a little bit different than Morales' testimony, but now I can appreciate why Morales' testimony of the quote-unquote manipulating the body is different than what's on the body on camera.
Right.
Does that make sense, Mr. Morales?
It's
Right?
just yes, yes, ma'am.
What is it that she removes from?
I believe it's his wallet and his cell phone.
They haven't introduced it so far. He believed they had done it, but they haven't introduced it.
And she says those items were away from her. And they,
Correct. She says his pants were really tight and she had to get his pants off.
You're not using her stealing
No,
from the body.
no.
So it's just a question of, I guess, why she was over the body and how things that you believe were on this person ended up.
Correct.
Should we go over or you guys gonna go over that, her statement? And then we'll come back?
So there's a couple things I think that is important that we do discuss, and I was going to bring it up if you both didn't. I intend to, so the entire statement itself is about 11 hours, give or take. I am not going to publish, and I'm piecing them together, any point in time when the defendant is alone in that room. I'm also going to be removing, when the defendant changes, she changes on camera, I don't think it's appropriate to publish that or give that to the jury. I'm also going to be removing the portion of the defendant being read Miranda for the first time and invoking Miranda. I do intend to have Detective Janoris testify to, I was getting her fingerprinted, she approached me, said something spontaneous to the effect of, I had to do it, or something like that. So then Detective Janoris says, in order for me to speak to you, I have to read Miranda. Then she does read Miranda. So that will all be...
In context, a set of Miranda, will the jury know that is a set form?
I'm not intending to have anything mentioned about her invoking whatsoever. I don't think I can.
Just want you to object to that, I guess, redaction from first Miranda waiver into second one?
No objection.
Because I think at the end of the day, you probably won't understand the end, right? As a matter of strategy, I mean, look, you can you want to cross-examine on the
Well-
legality of the Miranda waiver, you can, but
I'm not going there.
Yeah, I was going to say there is case law that says it is reversible error to discuss about the invocation of Miranda, even subsequent with a.
legality of the Miranda waiver, you can, but
I'm not going there.
Yeah, I was going to say there is case law that says it is reversible error to discuss about the invocation of Miranda, even subsequent with a waiving of Miranda. I don't want to get anywhere near that.
Yeah, it's really bad.
I don't want to.
If it was a challenge about knowing the voluntary waiver of the Miranda, I think the jury would be able to know if there was first and second.
I don't want to go near it because I don't, as this court has mentioned a few times already, I don't want this case coming back.
Okay, I think as a matter of strategy, Ms. Lim, does that make sense? As a matter of strategy, the statement that you gave the police is probably better if it's introduced in this case, right?
I mean, yeah, I prefer it to be introduced, but I would also prefer that the first Miranda, I also be published to the jury as well, but they know.
Judge, if the defendant is willing to waive any and all appellate rights with that issue, I'll do it. I think it's silly. I think it's reversible. But if she's willing to right now waive any appellate rights to that issue, which I do think is reversible error if I introduce that.
Why don't we do this? Since we ended early, you want to still ask to talk about it, and I'll have another discussion with you and him tomorrow about that. The reason I haven't looked over the case law, I'm not saying Mr. Vito is wrong, I'm going to defer to him right now because I haven't looked at that authority. But the purpose of just going into the second Miranda waiver is really to streamline, to make this move a little quicker. And since the second Miranda doesn't refer to the first one, the jury's not going to be confused about what you told the police after waiving your Miranda waiver. Does that make sense? It makes sense, but at this point, God forbid I find a big fine, the jury finds me guilty, at least I have another shot at reviewing that. We're going to talk to Mr. Tomas. I'm going to do some research on my own, and we'll talk about tomorrow. The redactions, so you guys are we ready to talk about redactions now?
I can talk about them in the general.
Miranda is a guy who can't even remember where he got arrested. Was it Arizona? Can't be. That's a fake place.
Since I have certain timestamps, but I don't have the specifics, what I can tell the court is I'm intending to redact all testimony from the defendant about any arrests of anybody, including my victim and herself. Defense counsel said, I believe it was last week, that he, as far as the second phase of this, should the defendant be found guilty, I said that the only thing that would be coming into evidence is Ms. Link saying she was arrested in the past. Defense counsel said it should be redacted. I agree, but I'm also going to be redacting the portions about my victim being arrested as well. This court has already ruled that those things are not relevant based off of the age of those. Furthermore, I don't think that there's anybody that can authenticate any of his convictions or arrests. The defendant can absolutely testify about this being a volatile relationship, a toxic relationship. I intend to elicit testimony from my detectives.
Any incident from 5 years before?
Sure. I intend to ask my detectives, did Ms. Link advise of acts of violence committed by Pedro Jimenez? Did she also against her, did she also advise of acts of violence that she committed against him? That is the extent that I'm going to elicit any testimony, no arrest or anything
General
else.
acts not related to arrest, which again, an arrest by law enforcement indicates some sort of, for lack of a better phrase, stamp of approval that somehow the police believe that there's enough to arrest
Correct.
either party.
The age of the, sorry, no, go ahead.
But it goes to the up and down or the toxic nature of a relationship.
Exactly. There's another portion in time when I believe Ms. Link says to Detective Janor something to the effect of being a victim of domestic violence or something like that against me, and I don't want to call her Melanie. Detective Janoris says, well, you also have been arrested. It goes both ways. I'm also going to be redacting that portion as well. And it's not like beat for beat. It is a very quick rapid fire conversation.
And then I read the instruction that lets them know it's redacted.
Yes.
They should not
Yes.
guess as to what was redacted.
Yes.
But that's not final yet. So it's
I need to go to lit support and sit down with them and get all those things. We have been able to cut out the portion of time that the defendant is alone, but we need to go through and actually timestamp the portion in time that we need to redact. And then as soon as I get that, I know that they leave. Some of them leave at 4:30, some of them leave at 5. I'm going to do my best to go and speak with them and get those things done. As soon as I get that done from them, I'll send it to Mr. Tomas, even if it's in the morning.
But you've gone over with defense the areas that you want to redact.
No, because I don't mean to be glib about this. I literally decided today that I was going to be introducing the statement.
So it's proper general areas of redaction.
And I have the transcript, so I'm sure I don't think it'll be a problem.
And if we have to, I'll start with a different witness, even if I have to start with the medical examiner first in the morning, so that way we can go over the statement itself and then go from there.
That's fine. So why don't we do this? Why don't we have this meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. so that if you have anything done, we can go over it.
Absolutely.
And if it's not done, we can just go through the actual transfer, so we can highlight, underline, so that your video folks know which part will be redacted.
Sure.
And then we'll do the research on the case law link about the first Miranda, maybe coming in, not coming in, and whether or not you're going to be in a position to waive any of that. All right, anything else that we have to come up, talk about before we adjourn the meeting?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
Okay, all right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
See you all tomorrow.
That was a whole lot of nothing. What a change a video makes. I wasn't seeing much directly linking her to it, but after that video, even if he yelled, "I wanna die," that doesn't give you the right to unalive someone. She will have to take the stand and talk about how she was being punched in the face and he was coming at her and we could hear him scream, and that's why she had to do it. But I believe they said in the opening statement that he was shot from behind. And that's always a big problem when people get bullets into the back of them when they are attacking people. Remember the snowplow case we covered in Connecticut, maybe? I'm not sure. Kentucky? Somewhere in America. Where one bullet went into his side and the rest went into his back because he went and pew-pewed him. So normally it doesn't seem to be a good idea to do that. No, I'm not mad. I'm just I'm thinking. This is my thinking phase. This is my O phase. This is my what's happening here phase. And this is my they got a baby through a vent phase. So when we came back after lunch, I was a little annoyed that we were spending so much time not really getting anywhere. But that video changed a lot of things, even if she claims she was pistol whipped 2 days before, because she brings him back to the house. And then what? He goes absolutely cray-cray. That's not what we really hear in the video. And then she has to do it, and then she's just, well, go fuck yourself. You want me to drive you to the hospital? That doesn't seem to me like someone who has just been in a fight for their life and had to do it. Because again, you have stand your ground rules in Florida. You are allowed to defend your castle. But there's a lot of screaming from him and her before the shot I'm missing if there's a big fight going on. That's maybe my mind will change again when we hear the defense's story, but so far the state had a good end to it. Well, then tomorrow we'll get apparently a police interrogation videos in 2 hours maybe. A medical examiner, an hour and a half, and then we should be about done. The state should be resting tomorrow. Which of my faces? Wasn't that in New Hampshire? Most likely, yes. Most likely. I really wish that I was smart enough to know how to denoise all of these videos, because there's so much white noise. If I could turn some knob, you can turn my knob. So we could hear what's really being said, because there was so much noise on it. My O face. Yeah, and to me, her casually just walking, you wanted to go to the hospital, it doesn't scream fighting for my life. And maybe she was afraid, But again, in the perception of a jury. In the perception of a jury. I know a lot of you didn't like Ashley Benefield and the way she acted on the stand because she was that little mousy type of woman, which I think was a mistake that the defense really tried to make her look very young. But I believed her story more than I believe if she comes with kind of the same, he was coming at me, because that's not what I'm hearing. I'm not hearing stay away from me. And again, why did she go to a drug den to bring him home to throw him out of the house, or she had thrown him out of the house or something? There's so much in this story where I'm sitting and thinking, what? Who? Yeah, it's vent baby compared to closet baby. Two both horrible ways to come into being, but the human spirit can overcome such life's handicaps of coming into being. Life will find a way. You know that, Scott McGinnis. See you, Celestial. Yeah, I'm glad that I'm not big enough to have all these weirdos. I have had my share of weirdos DM me, but this lady, she seems absolutely crazy. Sue, you're just mad that you didn't think of that story first. I think she was probably already doomed based on initially lying and claiming someone else shot him. Well, we haven't heard that either in this case. So it's not in front of the jury so far. Well, on the 911 call, yeah, but yeah, maybe. Yes, kind of like I have 1,000 accents. If they're Southern or Scottish, I can do them all. Jason Levesque was the snowplow. Yes, I believe it was because he was the brother of Triple H. Because he was Paul Levesque when he is Paul Levesque. Well, I don't have to stand for that harassment on my own channel. Anime said, well, we don't want to stream anymore tonight because we're going to harass Baker now. Everyone, if you want to hang out and have fun with the kid, Sue, Danny T, and the rest of the crew, there is Snits and Bitch on the Discord at 6 o'clock. I'll be back tomorrow at 10:30-ish. At least if I get up early, I might do a little cheeky morning show, but I won't sell the skin until the bear has been shot, as we say in Denmark, because it's really hard to get it off the bear if it's not dead. All of you, do the things you hate us talking about. I'm going to send you over to AJ. Please show her some love. She is doing a great job, but could use a few more eyes.